We've made it. We've made it, ladies and gentlemen. We've made it to Live Impact News this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, with this much closer to Friday. I'm just saying, y'all. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Carlene, James, fantastic. I like to call them co-hosts and producers.
Hi.
They do it all.
We do.
You guys are awesome. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? You're awesome.
I appreciate that. I'll take that. I received that.
I'm feeling rested and ready.
Rested and ready. Hey, buckle up, James, because we have a lot going on in the show. So, yes, I'm glad that you're rested and ready. Hopefully you guys are rested and ready and watching WCNC Plus. Again, thank you for joining us. Let's get to it. We have found some breaking news within the last 20, 30 minutes. We've been following this and keeping an eye on this. Take a look at this. This is a transit bus in New Jersey that crashed into, from our reports, a PSE&G utility truck. We're about a mile away from the airport there in Newark. This is in Newark, New Jersey there. You can see that truck is flipped on its side right there. Not a lot of details on what led up, but again, you can see the aftermath. This is helicopter video from moments ago there. And James, you were tracking this crash, you and Carlene, as we were coming on air, and you were paying attention to some of the coverage from WNBC. What can you tell us?
Still working to get a update on how many people may have been in the utility truck or on the transit bus. You can see that the utility truck is on its side here. Looks like the bus impacted it potentially on its side here at this intersection. As you mentioned, Nick, is about a mile away from Newark Liberty International Airport. PSE&G is, essentially their Duke Energy. That's their big power utility company up there. We don't know yet whether or not this truck was just driving down the road, whether it was working on a utility pole. This detail is still coming together, but you can see they've got the road cordoned off here and lots of people out in reflective vests as they tend to the crash scene. And we'll await an update from our partners in the New York, New Jersey area, but obviously a pretty scary sight. It was Carlene who spotted it just before we came on, noticing these helicopter feeds out of New York and said, there's some sort of serious crash here.
Mm-hmm. It was, I walked into the studio before the show and I was like, what is that? Because you see that truck is flipped on the side.
On its side. You can see it's one of those bucket trucks. You see the ladders kind of askew. Like it took a hit.
Yeah. It had to end up on the side like that. Well, you see, again, this is a video from moments ago. That scene obviously still there because it's just a lot to process there. As soon as we get more information, we're keeping our eye out on information as it drops. But as soon as we get more information on this crash, we will update you here on Live Impact News. All right, we'll shift our focus now to the forecast. Who loves the rain?
Not me.
Let me put my hand down. I'm not
you
gonna
don't
lie.
either.
I like the rain and its benefits and what it does, and
but we're tired.
We're
tired of it.
This rain is giving us a 1-2, and it's time for some summer weather, some sunshine.
That's all I want is some sunshine.
And Carlene to go to the pool.
I want a splish splash.
Splish splash. We want to enjoy some dry moments of the summer. Let's check in with meteorologist Becca Bursall on our forecast.
In fact, looking at the numbers, it's only August 12th. And look at the rainfall totals that we picked, basically from August 1st all the way through yesterday, almost up to around 6 inches of rainfall, which is more than our average for the entire month, which is just over 4 inches of rainfall. A lot of that fell yesterday. A couple of locations actually picking up over 2 inches of rainfall. That includes over towards Shelby, Gastonia, over an inch for Rock Hill, Chester, including Monroe, all the way over into Chesterfield County as well. We've got additional rounds of rain to go through as we head from now all the way towards the end of the work week, with some locations picking up an additional quarter to up to around an inch of rainfall on top of the rain that we've been seeing. So Doppler radar now, most of that rain action now along and east of 77, some of which are heavy at times and pushing to the east. Right now, New London all the way down into Albemarle, Big Luck, Georgeville, all getting in on those heavy downpours. also continues over towards Polkton and Ansonville. A little bit more consistent widespread rain as we go further off to the east, especially over towards Sirrah and portions of Chesterfield County. Our setup, we've got that high pressure system down to the east, and this is just going to drive in ample moisture and create rounds and rounds of rain as we head over the next couple of days. Now for today, a little bit more widespread, but the second half of the day will actually feature drier conditions as that heavier rain band moves off. Wednesday and Thursday, more scattered, a little bit more isolated as we end out the work week. So futurecast, again, that rainfall continues to push off to the east. This is 4 o'clock, a little bit drier, a couple of isolated downpours possible, but that main coverage is going to be up towards the high country. By the time we get into Wednesday, another wet start to the day. This is the morning hours. We've got more widespread from the mountains into the metro and becoming a little bit more scattered and hit or miss through the afternoon and evening, maybe even with a few peaks of sun to end out the day. Now with this rounds and rounds of rain, well, we've got a low excessive rainfall impact from now all the way through about Thursday, as isolated or nuisance flooding still going to be a possibility. Temperatures will slowly start to warm up closer to average, going to feel a little bit more like summer, especially heading into Thursday. Upper 80s, lower 90s is what we'll do all the way into the weekend. Checking in on the tropics, we do have that newest advisory for Tropical Storm Erin. One thing to note from this new advisory, from the 5 o'clock advisory this morning, is the winds sustained have not budged. It's still at 45 miles per hour and it's still moving west close to around 20. So Erin really has not strengthened much in the past 24 hours. And part of the reason why is that Saharan dust layer that prevents it from strengthening further. Now this will change over the next couple of days. National Hurricane Center now still has this as becoming our first hurricane of the season Friday instead of Wednesday, and potentially becoming a major hurricane by the time we head later on to the weekend for Sunday. Cat 3 or above is that major category status. We are going to be watching for this to eventually curve out to the northeast, so wouldn't be too concerned at this point, but we will continue to monitor that. Right now, 7-day forecast, clouds, cooler temperatures, and periods of on and off showers. That's what we can expect for today. A little bit more hit or miss and scattered into your Wednesday. We'll continue those rain chances finally into the weekend.
All right. Okay, Carlene, just looking up for the weekend. It's looking up. It's looking up. All right.
up.
Yeah, all right. Summer's back almost. It's here.
Almost.
Or it's right around the corner.
Right.
All right. So let's get to Panthers. So Panthers last day of training camp. Another day in the rain. I saw some of the video from training camp this morning, and it is another sloppy day out there in the field. But they have to get the work done. They are flying to Houston, Texas for their preseason game Saturday at 1 o'clock against the Texans. And we got some news in. I was patrolling the X streets and social media streets, I should say.
Right.
And our friend to the show, Mike Kay, he's a beat reporter covering the Carolina Panthers with Charlotte Observer. You've seen him here on Live Impact News, interviewing with sports director Nick Carboni. He's also the co-host of Processing Blue, a Panthers podcast. He's reporting that Austin Corbett has won the starting job at center. He's been with the team for several years now. There was some competition, but it looks like, according to Mike Kay, that competition is over and Austin Corbett has won the starting job there. Our very own Danielle Stein got a chance to talk to Austin Corbett.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday. Talk about good timing. Let's take a listen into that interview with Austin Corbett.
Austin, back for another season with the Panthers. I want to go back a little bit first to last year. You left with an injury and you were recovering from surgery. How were you mentally during that time as you were working towards getting back into football shape?
Yeah, I'd say of my 3 surgeries as of late, that was definitely the hardest one mentally. ACL was whatever. Okay, first big one, feel fine. MCL was kind of like, all right, give my ACL some more time to recover. Now I'm finally feeling good, playing center for the first time and in a really good spot, playing well, and just confident in football again. And just to have just a little bicep go, it stung, it hurt, but I just tried to stay around for the team as best I could, help the young guys out and help lead them, and got cleared right after the Atlanta game, so the last game of the season. I got cleared right after that, and so I had a full off season to get back into playing and OTAs, and now here in week 3 of camp, I'm feeling really well.
When you were out, what was it like for you to watch Bryce starting to turn it on later in the season, that you were not being able to be out there and protect him during that time, but he was, excelling at the end of the season?
Yeah, it was awesome. He did such a fantastic job of just handling all the adversity that was in front of him as well, and just to still be in meetings with him, have those communications with him, just hearing his mindset in meetings, hearing his mindset still on the sideline as well, and seeing him operate just kind of allows us to now being back in camp and working together just to continue that relationship and just be able to play it off like nothing was missed.
As this camp was progressing, the center position was one of the ones that did have some competition. What was that competition battle like for you, and do you like that, having to earn your spot basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, just my mentality-wise, like I started my college career as a walk-on at University of Nevada. Like I had to walk on to a small school, so like you gotta love this game to be able to do that, and that's the mentality that I've tried to carry with me always. But yeah, it was a great couple weeks of camp, and just because like the competition's still always going on in this league, and that's the best part of it. And have such a good relationship with Cade, and just continually challenging one another, and just doing it for the betterment of each other, for the betterment of the team, and I mean, we've seen it already. Like, you never know when your number's going to get called, and so you just got to stay ready and keep preparing and doing everything that we can to make sure that this team's going in the right direction.
Dave just said to us today that you will be the starting center. What does that sound like to you, and how does that kind of reaffirm all the hard work that you put in this camp and also in the offseason leading up to getting that being told to you?
Yeah, it's great. It feels amazing. I think that's, never want to take it for granted, especially being year 8 in this league. It's a long time, and it's a lot of work, and so just credit really to all the trainers and strength staff that we have here. Have continually battled and worked with me to get me in a good spot, and just grateful for them and for all the people that in the support staff that helped me get to this point as well.
You've been back on the field this preseason working with Bryce. What has that been like for you to now see as he's taking that next step in his game as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's palpable how different it is, and just his comfort level in the system, in the game itself, and for his ability just to make checks at the line and anticipate different defensive structures and kind of what's going to be brought at us at that point in time. And it's just that quiet confidence that he has that allows him just to go out and be the Heisman Trophy winner he is, be the number 1 overall pick he is, right? Like just getting after it.
Having that continuity on the O-line, how special and helpful is that for you guys, with the personalities already gelling, with just the style of play? You guys already know how each other operates.
Yeah, 100%. And really just not even for like that starting 5, but for everybody that's been here. That's the same group that we've had, since last year. And so to be able to build off one another, it doesn't matter who's in there. We're all speaking the same language. We're all understanding how each other move, kind of what techniques, benefit each playing style, and how we can make that work on the line of scrimmage with no matter who's in there. And so it's been a great camp, and really just being able to progress from that momentum we had last year and really take it and just to get off running with that, that first game against the Browns last week and this week coming up into Houston.
And Dave said that we might be seeing the starters a little bit more against the Texans coming up, maybe 3 series. What does that sound like to you? Do you like getting these more live game reps at this point in the preseason, getting ready before you actually start playing?
Yeah, and I completely understand where he's coming from of like, hey, we got a home game. Starters are going to get out there. You're going to get your home day process, right? What's your game day process look like at home? And now we get the opportunity to go on the road, and what's our process like going to be on the road? You got to feel those situations, be in them. So when we open up week 1 in Jacksonville, you know what to look forward to, you know what your routine is, and we can just hit the ground running.
How is your leadership helpful for this team? Do you take in any of the younger players under your wings to help them with getting for that game day readiness and everything like that? Yeah,
absolutely. I've been very fortunate in my career from when I was young. Had a lot of great mentors and veteran players that I've remained close to at this time, and so continually still talk to them and ask questions to them, and being able to share that, and just always just want to grow this league and help these guys that are coming in, whether it's here or some other team, like in some point of their career, like trying to just help them, give them 1-2 things that they can hopefully stick with and try to make that change and just be the help that I can.
And lastly, just what does it mean to you to be still here in Charlotte playing with this Panthers team?
Yeah, it's everything for them to, with my history over the last couple of years, like it's the risk, and I understand it, but their confidence to be able to re-sign me and their just the respect that we have for one another, and it's just home. It's just right where we want to be. It's why we signed here in free agency in the first place. We want to be here. We want to be part of this change. We can feel it. We know what's coming, and we're just excited. Absolutely love it here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I feel that too, man. I'm here with you, Austin. I'm here with you. All right. Yeah. And again, as I mentioned before, according to Mike Kay, Panthers beat writer for the Charlotte Observer, it looks like Austin Corbett has won the starting job at center. So we shall see how that works out this season. Hopefully it works out well. All right, so let's stay here at home. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about Clear to Shelters. So WCNC Charlotte is teaming up with shelters and rescues to highlight the importance of adoption and raise money for animal welfare. The annual Clear to Shelters event is even more important this year. Shelters are being forced to pay more to feed and keep dogs healthy before they get adopted. And that's a big component of this all. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay shows us, how one shelter is handling it. And look, it's tough. I mean, you have these impacts when it comes to tariffs. The price of everything is rising. And although they want animals adopted, not every animal gets adopted. And before you get them adopted, they got to be healthy and they have to be well fed and they have to have the vaccine. So
yeah.
I know that wasn't a question, Julie, but I'm just,
But I agree.
It's a stream of consciousness. So here you go.
That is exactly what they're dealing with too, and they have seen some of these price increases for a couple years now, more gradually. It's really this year that they've seen more of a spike. And as you mentioned, it's not just food, it's vaccines, it's veterinary services, all these things that you think about. You find an animal on the street, there's things they have to go through to be ready to be taken home by somebody. So they're luckily doing okay because they've received record number of donations because people have really stepped up. I spoke with Melissa Nicely, she works there, and she says people really connect with animals, and so they've been able to get some of those donations and volunteers that they need, but that will really have to continue just based on the sheer spike in costs that they're seeing.
Are there any other workarounds? Obviously, they want folks to donate and to help out, but are there any other workarounds they can do? I mean, I guess donating is the big component, but are there anything else they can do?
Well, events like this, like Clear Shelters, which we'll talk about, but they are talking about ways that they can kind of maneuver their budget to make sure that this is something that they can sustain. So something Melissa mentioned was pushing their Amazon wish list out. I think people are more likely to donate when they know, okay, she used the example of like a cat warmer. You are going to buy this knowing that that's exactly what it's going to go to, and you're helping in this specific way. That way, some of those financial donations they can use for other things that are maybe less interesting to people, like vaccines and veterinary services.
It's also easy to do, right? You can be sitting at your couch at home, and you can contribute to anybody's Amazon wish list, So it's a convenience factor too for these things.
Absolutely, and so pushing stuff like that has been, I think, very helpful for them. And then the biggest thing, though, is just literally clearing the shelters. They're seeing not just prices go up, but they're seeing adoptions across the nation go down, specifically with dogs. Cat adoptions are going down as well, but it's not the same rate as dog adoptions, which is interesting. And so that's why events like this are going to be really, really important.
Did she talk about Clear to Shelters event is coming up soon, but did she talk about Melissa Nicely? Did she talk about expectations? Do they have expectations going into this event? Obviously, they want every animal adopted, but the reality of it, did they have any expectations?
They didn't talk directly about expectations for the event. I know it's been very successful in the past, and that's why they're doing things like waiving the adoption fee, that kind of thing, to really get as much attention to this as possible. It'll be interesting to see those numbers compared to previous years. I know last year there were record numbers of adoptions, so I think that's going to be interesting right now. And another, of course, compounding factor of this is maybe one of the reasons people are adopting less is because dogs can be expensive. And it's not just the animal shelters that are dealing with tariffs. Everybody is dealing with inflation, tariffs. It's not really the most spendy time for people right now. And so adding another addition on top of that, they're trying their best, I think, to cushion that as much as possible.
What you folks know heading into the event, I am not a pet owner. I'm a pet. Yeah, for now. I'm a pet brother. That counts.
Maybe after August 23rd, you might feel differently.
I might.
Are you allergic?
Nope.
So what's going on?
I'll get back to you.
Convenience?
I'm stuck.
But you can donate to an Amazon wish list.
Oh, for sure. Yes. And I have in the past. But yeah, I'm stuck on that question. You got me stumped. I don't know. I'm a pet brother. That helps.
You've got 2 pet owners right here. Carlene's got a dog. I've got a cat.
Yes.
So we're teaming up.
Yeah, we're teaming up.
Yeah, no pressure.
So if I were to go to the animal shelter, for Clear the Shelters, what do I need to know? What can I expect? Julie K with the tough questions.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I asked, Melissa, why should people adopt right now for people like Nick who are maybe pet brothers, pet sisters, but are not quite sure if they want to do it? Just go and look. And she said, I promise one of these animals will steal your heart. One of them will speak to you. And it's really, I think, going there and seeing it. I mean, I almost walked out with multiple. I have a 1-bedroom apartment. I can't have it anymore. Even I, in that situation, walked out of there thinking, oh, I could have taken that dog home. But also knowing that they will connect with someone else. And so I will donate in the ways that I can. But know that this is a really big month for them. So you don't have to wait. You can look now. You can also, for example, if you're someone who cannot adopt right now, you can also volunteer. You can take a dog out for a day, a daycation. You can take a dog out for a walk. They can foster. So there's all sorts of other ways you can help if you are not ready to commit full time. But I do think this event is going to be really exciting, and I think they're looking forward to some big numbers.
They got me to think, and this is was related, unrelated. There's a guy who owns a business in New York, and he has a big truck, and he takes a bunch of dogs, puts them in the truck. They're well behaved, and they go to like a rural area, like a park, and he lets them roam free.
Yeah.
And it's like a very lucrative business. So it's so cool to see those animals get out, and so I say that because you can only imagine the animals at the shelter. They
just need some playtime. Even if you take an afternoon to go and play with the dogs, it's a huge help. Especially Vanessa, of course, is a huge animal advocate. She always says it's also great for people who maybe can't adopt right now to go and play with the animals and take notes about how your interactions with the dogs were, because those notes can help expand their profile, so that when other people who are looking can get really good information about the dog.
Actually, our Danielle Stein, one of our sports reporters, just rescued Churro, the cutest dog in the world. And she met Churro because her friends in her apartment building were doing that exactly. They were fostering the dog for a short period of time to get more information about the animal's behaviors. It worked out perfectly that was the perfect dog for Danielle. But that was a program that's how she found her dog, by just them volunteering to learn more so they could get more information for the shelter.
Good job, Danielle.
That dog, puppy son is so cute. And maybe good luck for the NFL season for the Panthers.
That's what you want.
No,
Nick's thinking about number one. He's thinking about Panthers.
Don't look at me for that one. I don't have anything to say about that.
That's not what I was just making a tie-in. I saw Danielle Sunday.
Course. Congratulations to Danielle and Churro.
Yeah, I saw her Sunday, so we talked about it a little bit. So I was like, you know what? Started the NFL season. Maybe good luck charm. I don't know, Julie K.
Nick putting me on the spot about something I don't know about.
See, that's what she gets.
Getting me back.
It's called payback. No, you can catch Julie at 4 and 5. Julie, thank you for your time as always. Always a good time when you come by here in the Live Impact studio.
Thank you.
All right. Adopt. Donate, do anything you can to help, because our animal friends need your help in the shelters. Those hardworking folks there at the shelters need your help as well. Very important. Clear the shelters. And we will have 2 interviews this afternoon, 2, count them 2, with lovely folks from shelters from across our area to talk about the importance of Clear the Shelters. All right. Let's switch gears now. Where do you want to go, Carlene? Sometimes I get like this where, hey,
We're not having too many lives right now.
Okay.
Anything really lives. We can talk about Clear the Shelter some more and go to Vanessa's thing until the next live thing pops. So we expect a lot of things to happen in the 1 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
We're just kind of now in a holding pattern.
Yeah, we just want to be transparent, and we want to stick to the theme of Clear the Shelters. I told you Vanessa Rufus has a couple of guests coming in here this afternoon.
2. We've got one organization from Lincoln County and Rutherford County. So we're crossing all over this
all over the
area.
viewing area.
So we're about to look at one from Gaston County. So
yeah.
No matter what neighborhood you're in,
you can go and help. You can go and help. Let's take a listen in with the interview with our folks and our friends over there in Gaston County.
Of course, we've got Clear the Shelters, and this is a cause that is very near and dear to my heart, being a volunteer at a local shelter here and a dog foster, and really just an all-around animal lover. So I'm really excited to bring this next segment to you right now on Live Impact News. Right now we have Gaston County Animal Care and Enforcement joining us here in the Live News studio. So thank y'all both for joining us. We have Ariel Hensley and we have Captain Kyle Yancey, both joining us from essentially the animal shelter out there in Gaston County to talk about your Clear the Shelters event that's coming up on Saturday, August 23rd, and also some of your adoptables. And I just can't wait for folks to see these pictures because they're absolutely adorable. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's start off with Clear the Shelters. This is an annual event that we do here at WCNC Charlotte, and NBC stations do nationwide, partnering with local rescues and shelters to really try to get the movement going with pet adoptions. And either one of you can speak to this if you want, but this is the time of year really when you need the help, right?
Yes, I mean, pretty much any time of the year is the time that we need the help, but we do have a certain push during this time because things do start piling back up. When everybody starts going back to school, we do see a drop in those adoptions. So definitely is a great time to come out if you can.
Yeah, and I mean, Captain Yancey, could you speak on what the shelter situation is looking like right now? I mean, I know we've been hearing from some that are, really, really full and just like constantly at max capacity. How are you all doing over there in Gaston County?
The same as the rest of the nation,
Yeah.
I'm afraid. Every shelter, every rescue is at max capacity, if not over, and they struggle to get those animals pushed along to their new homes. So this is one of the nationwide events that's sponsored by Hills, and we want to make sure that we're part of it, that everybody else in our community can come out and find another pet for their loving home.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the fact that obviously this is really big about adoptions, but also it's just great to spread awareness too about the animal shelters and rescues and what they need. Just having done work with local shelters and also just rescues in the area too, I know that, donations are really important. Getting fosters, to step up and help with, a little bit with the overcrowding situation. What do y'all need over there in Gaston County on that front, other than adoptions, and what sort of programs are there for folks who feel like maybe if I'm not ready to quite adopt but I still want to help, what can they do?
Yeah, there's some great opportunities in every shelter, but we know in Gaston, if we have volunteers that can come do anything, if they just want to come help, do laundry and wash dishes, or just take a dog for a walk, or take a cat for a walk in a stroller. I mean, any of those things are helpful.
Oh. I'm sorry, I'm just picturing it.
Yeah, it's a thing. And it really helps diminish their stress level. And so when an actual person comes in looking to adopt, they see this animal that is a lot less stressed, is more adoptable, and they can get a good concept of what it's going to be like to have this animal at home.
Yeah, and I mean, you were telling me kind of offline before we started the segment up here, the fact that it does seem like you don't have major barriers to be able to come in and volunteer on that front, that type of volunteer work. So how do folks actually get in the door with that? Do you go online, fill out a form, or you just email someone and say, hey, I feel like I want to help out?
Yeah, we encourage people that if you have spare time, just stop by. You can fill out an interaction form and just understand the rules and regulations, and then they can.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We right here at the top of the hour, 12:59, almost 1 o'clock. That was a portion of Vanessa Rufus's interview with our folks in Gaston County regarding our Clear the Shelters event. We have 2 interviews later this afternoon about Clear the Shelters from Lincoln County and Rutherford County. So make sure you stay with us here on WCNC Plus. We want to shift now to Washington, D.C. This is D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. She is doing an interview right now. We want to take you there because Bowser, again, the mayor of D.C., isn't, and I want to read this article out of D.C., isn't joining the chorus of DMV lawmakers slamming President Trump's D.C. takeover. Again, there has been a contentious relationship. More recently, and what's in the headlines now, the federal government has taken over the D.C. Police Department. So it looks like we had that interview up. They might have just, looks like we lost a shot. But again, that has been a big thing. President Trump had a briefing yesterday. And we usually see Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at these White House briefings with the press, but we saw President Trump along with his cabinet. Again, we were looking to take you to that interview, but it looks like that shot dropped out. But as we learn more about the situation in D.C., we'll make sure to get you there and get you the latest information here on Live Impact News. Like we all from earlier? Yeah, let's play our interview again. Federal government, federal intervention into the D.C. Police Department. Mayor Bowser is avoiding the clash as President Trump takes control of, in the Trump administration, the federal government take control of the D.C. Police Department. Here is Mayor Bowser from this morning. Let's take a listen in.
Have the best in the business at MPD and Chief Pamela Smith to lead that effort and to make sure that the men and women who are coming from federal law enforcement are being well used, and that if there's National Guard here, that they're being well used. And all in an effort to drive down crime. So how we got here, or what we think about the circumstances right now, we have more police, and we want to make sure we use.
Are you concerned at all that some of the police that are out there are FBI agents who are assigned up offices who are now patrolling the streets at night?
I'm going to rely on the police chief to work with her counterparts to make sure people are being deployed in a useful way.
You explained with the nature of the relationship in during the 30-day period?
It's going to be, she's going to work hand in hand with the people that the president has designated.
Just a couple more. Chief, we hear in some other jurisdictions, the National Guard are made up primarily of police and law enforcement. Do we know the makeup of the D.C.
I wouldn't
Guard?
say that. And I think they come from a whole background.
Are there a lot of law enforcement
There
who are actually?
There are a number of Metropolitan Police Department and officers from other law enforcement outfits, firefighters, and others who make up our D.C. National Guard, because that's who makes up our city. And the National Guard of the Guard take the rest on the day-to-day basis. So the National Guard is not law enforcement. And so, as the chief said to me, regularly, because of what we do in our city, work with the National Guard, and we'll do the same. That they will coordinate through the Metropolitan Police Department for any services that they're providing during this time.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so that was D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser during a press conference this morning. So right now we're keeping an eye here for a White House briefing. We're supposed to have that, and it's supposed to start at any moment now. And just to recap, some of the 800 National Guard members deployed by President Donald Trump began arriving in Washington, D.C. today, ramping up. The White House ordered federal forces to take over the city's police department and reduce crime and what the president called I guess without sort of verification on if that is true, a lawless city. The law lets Trump control the police department for a month, but how aggressive the federal presence will be remains an open question. And that's a report from AP News that I wanted to read to you to give you some context on this situation that's unfolding in our nation's capital. But again, we are keeping an eye there on the White House and awaiting the White House briefing that should start any moment now. But let's come back home. Let's check on our forecast. Another rainy day. But will the rainy days last? Let's check in with Becca Birdsall with our full forecast.
Good Tuesday afternoon. Not looking nearly as wet for the second half of the day, with only isolated downpours in the forecast. Not nearly as wet as the first half of the day was. That being said, though, we'll still carry about a 40% chance for a couple of showers throughout the day. Of course, this is rainfall on top of rainfall that we got from yesterday. Soils are very saturated, which is why all of us encompass under a low threat for excessive rainfall. This is mainly for nuisance or localized isolated flooding, just something that will carry likely not only for today but over the next several days as well. Highs today gonna be cool like they have been this past week. Lower 80s is what we'll do across the Charlotte metro and middle 70s across the high country, with clouds and periods of rain on and off throughout the day. Headed off to the Knights game this evening. Actually should be pretty nice, mostly dry, again holding on to a chance for an isolated shower, falling at least to the upper 70s by the time we get to around 9-10 o'clock. It's been a wet month so far. We're only at August 12th. In fact, from August 1st all the way through about the 11th, we've picked up almost 6 inches of rainfall, which is more rain than we get for the average for the entire month. A lot of that fell from yesterday. Some locations picking up over 2 inches, including Shelby, Gastonia, over an inch towards Hickory, Rock Hill, Chester, portions of Union and Chesterfield County as well, with an additional anywhere from a quarter to up to around an inch of rainfall as we head from now all the way through about Thursday. So the worst is already over. Here's that setup. We've got that high pressure system off to the east, and that's driving in winds from the south and just going to provide ample moisture for rain chances over the following days. Going to be more widespread for today, scattered for Wednesday and Thursday, and a bit more isolated as we end out the work week. Timing this out for you, that rain continues to push off to the east, and as we head towards the evening hours, in exception to the high country, most locations will stay dry. Again, isolated downpour here and there, but don't cancel any plans. Wednesday morning starts off wet. We've got widespread clouds and a couple of light showers, some of which actually could be briefly heavy at times, and scattered showers and thunderstorms can be expected for the afternoon and evening, potentially even with a few peaks of sunshine, but we will carry that pattern into Thursday as well. This is that rinse and repeat cycle, which is why all of us at least encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall all the way through Thursday. Eventually, though, as rain chances taper off, it's going to start to feel a little bit more like summer as temperatures finally rise closer to average, upper 80s to lower 90s Thursday, all the way into the weekend. So we're looking forward mainly to a mostly rain-free Saturday, Sunday, and going to be feeling more like a seasonable August day. Checking in on the tropics, we do have that newest advisory for Tropical Storm Erin. Now, the earliest advisory this morning came out around 5 o'clock, and not much has changed. In fact, winds sustained with Erin are still 45 miles per hour, and it's still moving west at 23. So Erin really hasn't strengthened much in the past 24 hours, and part of the reason why is the Saharan dust layer is interacting with Erin, and the Saharan dust layer often inhibits or prevents tropical systems from being able to strengthen just because it creates a dry layer in the atmosphere, which suppresses clouds and moisture. So as this continues to interact with dust, it is going to slowly progress and slowly strengthen as it continues to push westward. So National Hurricane Center has updated this forecast, now likely to become our first hurricane of the season by the time we go into Friday, potentially a major hurricane heading into this weekend. Does look like it's going to stay away from the East Coast, but keep up to date with that latest forecast on WCNC Plus.
All right, so that's your full forecast. We want to shift now to Washington, D.C. White House briefing is underway. That's Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Wage growth for American workers is beating inflation once again. As inflation declines, this administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets. American real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office. And small business optimism, according to this morning's report, has also reached a 5-month high. Ignore the panicans and trust in President Trump. That is our motto here at the White House. The America First economic agenda is working. On another matter, yesterday, President Trump took bold action to finally restore law and order right here in our nation's capital. The president declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, federalized the D.C. Police Department, and mobilized the D.C. National Guard to end violent crime in our nation's capital. As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant. A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort. This is only the beginning. Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety, and endangers law-abiding Americans. President Trump will not be deterred by soft-on-crime Democrats and media activists who refuse to acknowledge this rampant violence on our streets. He is going to make our nation's capital the most beautiful and safe city on earth, just as he promised on the campaign trail. Staying on the topic of public safety, the Trump administration continues to shatter records on border security. According to brand new numbers released this morning from Customs and Border Patrol, illegal crossings have fallen to all-time lows once again. Here were the records set in July. Again, these numbers were released this morning. The lowest monthly nationwide encounters ever, down nearly 90% from the monthly average under the Biden administration. The lowest monthly Border Patrol apprehensions nationwide ever, smashing the previous record set the prior month in June. The lowest monthly Southwest border apprehensions ever. The lowest daily apprehension average ever. The lowest single-day apprehensions ever. And for the third straight month, there were 0 illegal aliens released into the country. Let me repeat that remarkable statistic. For the third month in a row, not a single illegal alien was released by the Trump administration into the United States of America. This is historic. Under President Trump, this border is the most secure it has ever been. When you fortify the border, when you restore deterrence, and when you empower Border Patrol agents and our brave men and women in uniform to actually do their jobs to enforce our laws, like this president has, this is the incredible result. And in the interior of our country, criminal illegal aliens continue to be arrested and removed. Here are some of the criminals arrested by ICE in just the last few days. ICE Buffalo arrested an illegal alien from Jamaica convicted of attempted murder. ICE Buffalo also arrested an illegal alien from Ecuador convicted of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. ICE Houston arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of manslaughter. ICE Newark arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of the sexual assault of a minor. ICE Dallas arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of assault causing bodily injury. And already the Trump administration has arrested more than 300,000 illegal aliens in 2025. Again, more than 300,000 illegal alien criminals have been arrested in the interior of our country in the first 6 months of this administration. And despite many false reports in the media, nearly 70% of these arrests have been criminal aliens with criminal charges or prior convictions. This is success all around. This is removing the most dangerous public safety threats from America's communities and returning these individuals to their home countries. So there's been success all around. I'm sure you have a lot of questions today. I'm happy to get to them, so let's get started. And as always, we'll start with our new media seat, who is our podcast host today, Benny Johnson. Benny, why don't you kick us off, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. As a D.C. resident of 15 years, I lived on Capitol Hill. I witnessed so many muggings and so much theft. I lost track. I was carjacked. I have murders on my Ring camera and mass shootings. I witnessed a woman on my block get held up at gunpoint for $20, and my house was set ablaze in an arson with my infant child inside. And so to any reporter that says and lies that D.C. is a safe place to live and work, let me just say this. Thank you. Thank you for making the city safe, because no parent should have to go through what my family went through, having the fire department rip open their door to save their infant child. And so thank you for your work on securing this city. My question to you is this. Nancy Pelosi has attacked the president for deploying the National Guard to the city, saying that it is to cover for his incompetence. Hillary Clinton has also attacked the president for securing the city of Washington, D.C. I'd like to get your response to Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton.
Sure. Well, first of all, Benny, I'm so sorry that happened to you and your family. There have been, unfortunately, far too many victims of crime in this city, and I know the majority of residents in the District of Columbia agree with you. In fact, a new poll from the Washington Post I was reading this morning, this was released in May of 2024, so it's quite funny how many of you in the media agreed with what the president was saying yesterday, but now once the president says it, many of you are disagreeing with him. But this poll released by the Washington Post found that 65% of district residents think crime is an extremely serious or a very serious problem, and this was up from 56% last year. So the concern that you share with so many other residents in the District of Columbia is real, and that's why this president is taking action to address it. To get to the heart of your question, I think it's despicable that Democrats cannot agree that we need more law and order in a city that has been ravaged by violence, crime, murders, property theft. This should be a winning issue for all Americans. I don't understand. It's just anything President Trump does, the Democrats want to disagree with. I think the president would love to work with Democrats on this issue to bring law and order to America's cities, but unfortunately they have failed, and that's why he's taken this historic action to federalize the National Guard. And as you're seeing from last night's numbers, we already have seen success. We are removing violent offenders, we are arresting criminals, and we are removing drugs and firearms off of the streets of the city to make it safer for all of its residents.
Just a very quick follow-up to that. Given the heroic actions of a member of this administration just a few blocks from this building, will the president consider giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Big Balls?
I haven't spoken to him about that, but perhaps it's something he would consider. I'll ask him and get back to you, Benny. Thanks for being here. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the President Trump summit on Friday, why not invite Ukrainian President Zelensky to that summit? I know the president said yesterday that he planned to speak with him right after the summit and even before, but why not invite Zelensky, and whose decision was it to not invite him? Was it the president or was it President Putin?
Well, this meeting came about because the president of Russia asked the president of the United States to meet through his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who, as you all know, traveled to Russia to have a conversation with Putin at his request. And so the president is agreeing to this meeting at the request of President Putin. And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. And the president said at this podium yesterday when he joined all of you in the room that he hopes in the future there can be a trilateral meeting with these three leaders to finally bring this conflict to an end. But this administration has really used every lever, has taken every measure to achieve peace through a diplomatic solution. And I think the President of the United States getting in the room with the President of Russia, sitting face to face rather than speaking over the telephone, will give this President the best indication of how to end this war and where this is headed.
And another question on something that happened yesterday, but I wanted to get the White House response. A judge ruled that the grand jury transcripts in Ghislaine Maxwell's case should not be released. What's the White House's response to that? And do you plan to appeal? And what do you tell President Trump's supporters who want that information released?
We think that decision is unfortunate. Of course, we moved to unseal that information because the president has said he wants to see credible evidence released. As for the appeal process, I would defer you to the Department of Justice for that.
Rachel. Thanks so much, Caroline. We're learning that President Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky. I was curious if you can share any more details about their call, and did Zelensky give President Trump any red lines, any non-starters ahead of this summit on Friday?
Look, I don't want to reveal the private conversations between the president and President Zelensky, but what I can tell you is that the president has deep respect for all parties that are involved in this conflict and are trying to bring this conflict to an end. After Special Envoy Witkoff returned from his meeting with President Putin in Russia, his first phone call was to President Trump. And President Trump's first phone call was to President Zelensky and to our friends in Europe to keep everybody in the loop about where the United States can see moving the ball forward to end this conflict. And so we continue to be very much engaged with President Zelensky and the Ukrainians, but also our allies in Europe as well.
And then just one more for you. How does the president measure success coming out of this meeting? The president at times has suggested that Putin might be tapping him along. Is he prepared to walk out of this meeting if he senses that Putin is not serious about ending this war?
I think I just answered that question for you and what the goal and the expectation of the meeting is. And I won't jump ahead of any hypotheticals, and I'll leave it to the president to speak to all of you after the meeting, which I'm very confident he will. Steve.
Is he optimistic that a deal will emerge from this meeting, or is he simply going to listen?
I think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
Caroline, how did you settle on Alaska as a site for this? So there were some other sites being discussed. Is this like it was a midpoint between the two leaders?
There were many sites discussed, but of course Alaska is a state within the United States of America. So the president is very honored and looks forward to hosting President Putin on American soil.
Last thing, is there a joint news conference plan, or will the president have a solo one? What sort of scheduling stuff?
Yeah, the mechanics and the scheduling, Steve, are still being ironed out. For Friday, we're working with our Russian counterparts to put those plans into action, and of course we'll keep you all apprised on the logistical details of Friday as soon as we get them. Charlie?
The president said at the podium yesterday twice that he was planning to go to Russia. Was that a verbal slip-up, or does he actually plan to go to Russia?
Perhaps there are plans in the future to travel to Russia, and on Friday the president will be meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as you know. Phil?
Last week the president said the CEO of Intel was highly conflicted, seeming to cite his past investment with Chinese companies that were doing business with the Chinese military. Yesterday he called his meeting with that CEO a success. So what can you tell us about what the Intel CEO said to President Trump that changed his mind?
The president put out a statement that you cited, Phil. I will leave it at that. He shared his thoughts on that meeting and how it went, and for any further comment on that, I'll leave it to him to make.
Will the Bureau of Labor Statistics continue to put out monthly jobs reports?
Well, look, what I'll tell you about the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I believe that is the plan and that's the hope, and that these monthly reports will be data that the American people can trust. As you know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has made massive revisions after the last several reports that they have put out. And there has certainly been a decline in the quality and the reliability of data coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and there's been an increase in revisions. And this president and the administration is finally tackling this problem that so many have talked about, and the president is actually doing something about it. We need to restore new leadership that we can trust. As you know, the president has appointed someone new to take over the BLS, and so we need to look at the means and the methods of how the United States is acquiring this very important data, and all of that is going to be done, and the goal, of course, is to provide honest and good data for the American people to make very important economic decisions on. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, if I may. The president has talked about land swaps between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin says he wants Russia to hold on to Russian-occupied territory in eastern Ukraine. Is the White House at all concerned about the messaging that potentially giving over or allowing for Russia to maintain its occupied territory in eastern Ukraine, what that might say to other U.S. adversaries like China?
Look, right now, the President of the United States has done more to end this war than his predecessor, Joe Biden, who allowed this war to take place. This war, don't forget, happened at the result of the weakness and the incompetence of the previous administration. And so the president inherited this conflict, and he is determined to end it. And it's a very complex and complicated situation. As for the details of the plans that have been kind of tossed back and forth, I won't get into those, and I will let the President of the United States discuss those plans with the President of Russia, with our European allies, and the President of Ukraine, Zelensky himself as well. Sure, go ahead, in the green.
Thank you, Caroline. As far as the policing and security operations in
Speak up.
Is there a timeline? Do we know what success looks like? And is it going to last longer than 30 days? And also, is there going to be an immigration enforcement aspect to this?
So can you speak up a little bit? The air conditioning is bumping in here for all of you today after yesterday's heater, so we've got to stock up. You're welcome. Go ahead.
Is there a timeline for the security operations here in D.C., and also is there going to be an immigration component to this, and what would that look like?
Look, if law enforcement officers encounter a criminal in this city and they are an illegal alien, of course the appropriate measures to detain and deport that individual will be taken, as they should. No city should be a sanctuary for anyone other than law-abiding American citizens, and that has been the position of this administration since day one. As for the timing, we will reevaluate and reassess and make further decisions after this 30-day period is up. But within these 30 days, our entire focus is making sure that this is the most efficient operation possible, and that we are removing as many criminals from the streets, and we are cleaning up D.C. as best as we can, and working with the Metropolitan Police Department to do that. I know the mayor just spoke several minutes ago. I was watching her on television, and she said that an increase in law enforcement officers on the streets will be helpful to deter crime in this city, and we look forward to working with these brave men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department to remove criminals off of our streets and to keep law-abiding citizens in the district safe. Josh.
Thank you. The president weighed in on Jay Powell again today, you might have seen. He said that he's considering allowing a major lawsuit against Powell to proceed because of the, quote, horrible and grossly incompetent job he has done. Can you tell us about that? What lawsuit is he talking about?
He's considering a lawsuit, and I won't speak on it any further. I will allow the president to do that himself.
Is it fair to say the administration is considering suing the Fed chair over this renovation?
That's what the president is saying.
Has he had discussions with anyone about this, or is this just like how advanced is this right now?
At this moment in time, the president is considering a lawsuit against the Fed, and I will leave it to him to comment.
CHIPS deal the president has struck, and as well AMD, the 15% stake that will go to the government. Do you have any detail on how that came about? The president said he asked for 20% from NVIDIA. Did he make the same 20% ask to AMD, and or is this something the administration is looking to do with other either chips or products, going forward? Is this a model that wants to build on?
Well, look, right now it stands with these two companies. Perhaps it could expand in the future to other companies. I think it's a creative idea and solution. The legality of it, the mechanics of it is still being ironed out by the Department of Commerce, and I would defer you to them for any further details on how it will actually be implemented. But again, this was another idea of the president and his brain trust on his trade team to try to, get good deals for the American people and the American taxpayer.
Did you see the report that China is discouraging use of the H20 to some companies? Census were reporting that overnight there was private guidance sent to companies not banning the chip but urging them to steer away from it. I wonder if you have any response to that.
I haven't read the report. I will, and we'll get you a comment on it. Tamara.
Thank you. Last week, the meeting with Putin was sort of described potentially as an opportunity for a deal. Now it's a feeling out. Has there been a shift in expectations within the White House, or an effort to temper expectations about what success looks like for this meeting?
I mean, look, I think both can be true, right? The president has always said he wants a peace deal. He wants to see this war come to an end. But this bilateral meeting is a bilateral meeting between one party in this two-party war, right? You need both countries to agree to a deal. The president is accepting this bilateral meeting with Putin on Friday, and I will let him speak further to it after it concludes about how he felt it went.
And could you also, completely unrelated topic, regarding the president's efforts in Washington, D.C., do you have any specifics about how homeless people will be dealt with, where they would be moved to? What does this look like?
I do, yes, and it's an important question, so thank you for raising it. The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals and homeless encampments as well. So we will be using these regulations and code that already exists to clean up our streets, and we've already had great success. Not many of you picked up on this, but the United States Park Police has actually done remarkable work in terms of removing homeless encampments from the city. Since the president signed this executive order in March, 70 homeless encampments have been removed by the U.S. Park Police. There are only 2 homeless encampments remaining in D.C. federal parks under the National Park Service's jurisdiction, and the removal of those 2 remaining camps is scheduled for this week. So the U.S. Park Police will be leading this effort alongside MPD.
Just very quickly, he had talked in one of his social media posts about moving them very far outside of the city. Is that off?
No, it's not off. We're exploring how we could do that. But again, homeless shelters, offered addiction and mental health services, or jail if they refuse are the options on the table right now. And we'll continue to explore that option.
Sure. Thank you so much, Caroline. President Zelensky said moments ago that he thinks Russia is preparing for a new offensive on at least 3 different areas of the front line. Is this something that you could confirm based on U.S. intelligence? And if the president sees that Putin is indeed planning major new offensive or moving troops, would he call off the meeting on Friday?
I'm not in a position to confirm or deny or comment on that intel at this time. Monica.
Thanks, Caroline. My question involves Russiagate. A whistleblower alleges that then Congressman Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information to smear President Trump's image during the Russiagate scandal. Does the president plan to investigate Adam Schiff, and what would accountability look like if more information confirms this report?
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that, and this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the Russiagate scandal. This is obviously a bombshell whistleblower report. Hopefully more people in this room will cover it as such. And I have a quote from the FBI director for all of you. He has said this: "For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose: to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ, and Congress will have the chance to uncover how political power may have been weaponized and to restore accountability." That's what the administration is focused on, and hopefully we'll see some more media reports on this whistleblower allegation. If this were reversed, if this were allegations against the president or any of these cabinet officials, I'm sure everyone in this room would cover it as such. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. After yesterday's action to federalize the D.C. police, is the president still interested in working with Congress to end the Home Rule Act, something you've talked about in the past? Senator Mike Lee has a bill on it. Is that something he's still interested in?
The president is very much still interested in working with Congress to address many of the issues that have plagued Washington, D.C., such as the cashless bail policy, which has been a complete disaster for the city. Juvenile delinquency is another major problem in the city that Congress can address. So I know Congress is on recess right now. When they get back to work to Washington, this president looks forward to having these conversations with our friends on Capitol Hill so we can work with them to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. And again, we encourage Democrats to join us in this effort. Perhaps their approval ratings would move up a little bit. If they did, I saw a new poll today, Democrat approval rating is at an all-time low, 32%. If they could just stand by the basic notion of law and order, perhaps they would see that tick up a bit, and we welcome them to do that. Dasha.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump yesterday at this podium indicated this, so has NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, that In order for peace to happen, it is very likely that Ukraine will have to cede some land to Russia. Zelensky has repeatedly said no land for peace. That's not going to happen. Has this administration communicated to Zelensky that he's going to have to change that position?
Look, I appreciate you're asking that question in a different way than your colleague Michael in the back. I don't want to get into the details of these negotiations and these discussions that have taken place out of respect for where we are right now, and I'll let the president speak on it further if he wishes to.
One more about Israel. I know the president has had a call with Prime Minister Netanyahu recently. Netanyahu is planning to seize the remainder of Gaza City. What is the administration's position on this move by Israel's government?
Look, this is an incredibly complex and complicated war that, again, was inherited by this president, by his predecessor, Joe Biden. October 7th was one of the worst days in history. We saw innocent people slaughtered, murdered, kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. This administration has taken extensive time and effort and resources since Inauguration Day in January to end this conflict. We have given many flexible arrangements backed by Israel to Hamas, and unfortunately, Hamas has never agreed. Looking ahead, I will let the president speak on where he sees this going, but this is, of course, an incredibly complex and complicated situation. The administration has made our goal clear. We want to see this conflict end. We want to see the hostages released, and we've tried. The president and his national security team have given extensive effort and time to doing that.
With how Israel has used those resources and the assistance that you've provided?
Look, I'll let the president speak on the further actions that Israel may or may not be taking. Alexander, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Caroline. Thank you. The Kremlin is expressing interest that Friday's meeting will move beyond just terms to end the war into improving bilateral relations. There's talk over how they're interested in potentially restoring direct flights between Russia and the United States. Is President Trump open to those kind of peripheral conversations, or is this directly focused on ending the war in Ukraine?
I think this conversation on Friday is focused on ending the war in Ukraine as far as the president's perspective goes. Those conversations, I think the president is interested in having, but his main priority right now is ending this war and to stop the killing that has gone on for far too long. You're welcome.
Carolyn.
In the back. Go ahead.
Yeah, two questions on the economy. So first, we've had small businesses tell us that it's not foreign exporters who are eating the tariffs, it's them. And they've held off on raising prices, but soon they're going to have to raise prices. What is the White House's message to them?
The White House's message to our small business owners across the country is you have never had a better ally or friend or supporter in this White House than President Donald Trump, who is a businessman himself, who understands your concerns, and who wants to restore wealth back to our country through the powerful use of tariffs. And that's what he's focused on doing, while simultaneously driving down costs. You have to remember, we are 6 months into this administration, and we had a president who had no business experience, had no idea what he was doing, and who funneled billions of wasteful spending dollars into our economy, which created the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Now this president is focused on tackling inflation, deregulating, cutting costs, cutting red tape to make it easier for small business owners to thrive. And again, the economic indicators show that we are moving in the right direction. In January, when this president showed up to the White House, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate was 3.7%. Today, 6 months later, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate is 2.4%. So we are trending in the right direction. Moving forward, since President Trump took office, for another 6 months, inflation will be tracking at 1.9% at this trajectory. You look at grocery prices, they fell, energy prices fell, fuel oil fell, ship fares fell, propane fell, butter, margarine, eggs, non-prescription drugs. You go through the list of items that are falling. And then I would also point to that report this morning showing that small business optimism has reached a 5-month high. So look, we inherited an economic mess from the previous administration, but this administration is focused on fixing it every day. And part of that is signing the largest tax cuts into law to put more money back into the pockets of these small business owners.
Just on the BLS, they collect the inflation data, obviously. If the jobs data is not reliable, should Americans trust the inflation data?
Well, look, the jobs data has had massive revisions. We want to ensure that all of the data, the inflation data, the jobs data, any data point that is coming out of the BLS is trustworthy and is accurate, which is why the president has restored new leadership at the BLS. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. So Gavin Newsom has said that California is going to sue in response to the government's demand for $1 billion from UCLA over the DOJ's anti-Semitism findings. Newsom has called this extortion and ransom, so I'm wondering what the White House's response is to Newsom on UCLA.
Bring it on, Gavin. This administration is well within its legal right to do this, and we want to ensure that our colleges and our universities are respecting the First Amendment rights and the religious liberties of students on their campuses, and UCLA has failed to do that. And I have a whole list of examples that I will forward to Gavin Newsom's press office if he hasn't seen them himself. Brett.
Thanks, Caroline. What was the reason that President Trump chose to move on from Billy Long as IRS commissioner?
Look, I think the president wants to see Billy Long as the ambassador to Iceland. As you know, that is where he will be headed, and the president loves Billy Long, and he thinks that he can serve the administration well in this position. For now, Secretary Scott Bessent will be the acting IRS commissioner.
Timeline for announcing a new pick?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed, go ahead, but
wait,
then in the back, yes.
Go in the back first.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Caroline.
Ladies first.
One foreign policy and then one domestic question, if I may. There are roughly 30,000 children from Ukraine who have reportedly been abducted and are kind of dispersed around Russia. They've been showing up on these websites for adoption. Is their return a red line for the president in any deal ending the war?
The administration is aware of these reports. I don't want to set red lines for the president on his behalf from this podium. However, the president did encourage Ukraine and Russia to speak directly to one another in terms of these humanitarian issues, and we have seen progress. You have seen prisoners of war swapped between these two countries as a result of these direct talks, as well as children, and that remains a concern, but it's one that Russia and Ukraine need to iron out together, which is why this president has encouraged them to speak.
Okay, thank you. And then if I can, the D.C. action real quick. The president said yesterday that this is a model federalizing the National Guard that could be used to combat really high rates of crime in other cities like Chicago, LA, Baltimore. What sort of authority would he have to deploy forces like that absent the Home Rule Act?
Look, the president is speaking about what he'd like to see take place in other cities around the country. Right now, this administration is focused on making D.C. safe and beautiful again. When the time comes, we'll talk about that. But I will note that the president wants to see all of our nation's cities be safe. But I think starting with our nation's capital is a great place to begin, and it should serve as a model for the rest of the country. Ed.
Just to bind up a few of the D.C. things, because a lot of them have already been asked, but in talking with Congress about potential changes to home rule and whatever else, would he also push the House to finally pass D.C.'s budget so that it has access to all that money that it does need for policing, for schools, and for other services here in the city?
Yes, as you know, he has done that. He put out a statement calling on the House to take up the Senate's legislation, and he stands by that position.
Let me take you back to something from last month. You guys announced the president was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency after his legs were seen swelling. How's he being treated for that? And while you were upfront about those health issues, curious if the White House would be willing to let us speak with his physician directly about those health issues. I know there were a lot of concerns about the last White House not making the physician available. Would the physician be available in this case?
I don't want to make that commitment on behalf of the physician, but it's certainly something we can look into and explore out of the effort of transparency, because unlike the previous White House, there is nothing to hide. You guys see this president working around the clock, literally 24/7, all of the time, and I will be happy to look into that request.
Can we at least get an update on how he's being treated for the swelling legs and for the hands and the other issues?
Look, you see the president every day. He's moving, he's working, he's continuing. There have been no adjustments made to his lifestyle.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions, one on D.C., but on the Putin meeting on Friday, does the president plan to meet with Putin one-on-one?
Yes, that's part of the plan. And as for the other mechanics and logistics, I will let our team speak to that when they're ironed out.
And on what's happening in D.C. with the federal takeover, what we've heard from the mayor and the police chief is that their understanding is there has been no change in the leadership structure. In the White House's view, who is in charge of the MPD right now?
If you read the executive order, it will tell you the leadership structure is as follows. We plan to work with the Metropolitan Police Department, but ultimately the chain of command is as such. The President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, our DEA Administrator, Terry Cole, who is now serving ahead of the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. And they will be working together. Nope, Terry Cole, as you heard from this briefing room yesterday, is in charge of the Metropolitan Police Department, and he's working with the chief to ensure that law enforcement officers are allowed to do their jobs in this city.
Caroline?
Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. I know you said earlier the hope is to maintain monthly job reports, but the president's new nominee for BLS Commissioner E.J. Antoni recently told Fox Business that the BLS should suspend issuing monthly job reports and only issue quarterly reports until the jobs data methodology is corrected. So does the president disagree with that assessment that his nominee is said there, or suspending these monthly job reports a real option?
I think he floated the idea of possibly suspending until they can get the data and the methodology in order. And this president wants to ensure that the BLS, again, is putting out accurate and honest data that the American people can trust. Since you brought up the new commissioner, he holds a master's and doctor's degree in economics from Northern Illinois University. He's the chief economist in the Heritage Foundation's Center for the Federal Budget. And in addition to his work at Heritage, he has multiple other roles. He's been widely renowned for his work on economic issues. He's been called before Congress to testify as an economic expert. So he's a qualified individual, and the president trusts him to lead this important department. I think a couple more questions. Sure, go ahead.
Given that the administration now has jurisdiction over MPD, can we expect, does that mean like personnel changes, hiring, firing? Can we expect leadership changes internally in the Metropolitan Police Department?
I just walked through what the leadership structure looks like right now.
Within the uniformed police department, right? I mean, does that mean that the Attorney General, others kind of have the ability to make those personnel decisions?
I would imagine it means they have the ability. As for any changes, I'm not tracking any. Again, we look forward to working alongside the Metropolitan Police Department, and we did that last night successfully, and we hope we can do that for the next 29 nights. Go ahead. Yes.
So in light of reports that ICE agents detained a 15-year-old student with disabilities outside an LA high school, even leaving bullets on the sidewalk, how does the Trump administration plan to ensure parents that their children can return to school without fear of being wrongfully detained or endangered by federal agents?
Where'd you see that report?
LA Times.
Okay, well, I'll have to look into the veracity of that report. I read the LA Times almost every single day, and they are notorious for misleading the public. I'm sure there's more to that story than the way that you just characterized it. This administration wants to ensure that all school children across the country in every city, from Los Angeles to D.C., can go to school safely, and that's part of this administration's effort to federalize the National Guard in Washington, to ensure that ICE is removing child predators. I just read you a list of a handful, just a handful, of the hundreds of thousands of child predators that this administration is removing off of the streets of Los Angeles and every other community across this country, because we want to ensure this is a country where American school children can be safe, where they can prosper, and where they are not threatened by violent criminals, whether they are illegal or whether they are American citizen homegrown criminals, as this president calls them. So I will gladly go check on that report, and I'll get you the facts. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. The White House briefing there has just wrapped up. We have another press conference that is happening live at the moment. You see right there on the bottom of your screen. So we're getting an update on a explosion in Clairton, Pennsylvania. This is a live look from that press conference. We're going to join it in progress. In case you missed it, 2 people were killed and 10 others were injured in an explosion at the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant on yesterday. Let's take a listen into this press conference.
Finding ways to advance the technology in a different way that maintains jobs here, but that does really secure additional safety measures so that this kind of tragedy doesn't happen again.
I believe we can do, pardon me, I believe we can do all of the above. We can make sure that the neighbors who live in the area have confidence in the air they breathe and the water they drink. that the workers who come here every day have confidence in the safety of this facility and the fact that Nippon is investing in it to make it even safer. I think many of us worked hard to ensure that there would be a future of steel making here in southwestern Pennsylvania. We all succeeded in that, but that was just the beginning of the work that needs to be done. I want to make sure that, as was the case with TQ, where he was a second-generation steel worker, that the children of those who are working in this plant feel that they have a future in steelmaking right here, and I'm confident that they do. I think with the added investment of more than $2 billion initially that Nippon will put into this facility, it will not only allow it to be safer and more efficient, but ensure that steelmaking will continue in this region.
Mr. Burr, are you expecting a transparent, the county executive, the governor, and Bernie have talked about a transparent investigation. You said sort of you would give all the information you could. Are you going to commit here to a transparent investigation?
Are you going to commit to a transparent
Absolutely. In fact, we've talked about that several times with the governor. We need to not speculate. We need to get the facts. Facts are friendly. And we're going to support the local investigators, the state investigators, the federal investigators. We're going to make sure that we get to the root cause. And when we get to that root cause, we can be assured that this doesn't happen again.
Mr. Burr, coke ovens were being loaded or unloaded?
Hang on, we'll get to you next. Good.
Mr. Burr, I had a tough conversation with a steelworker not even 2 hours ago. He was very close to this explosion. When it happened, he's both emotionally devastated, but he's also upset. He said that there are many issues that happen in this plant that nothing's even addressed until there's an injury, an incident, or the loss of production. He cited a specific instance where he said he told a manager that he feared that repairs were being rushed, and that manager told him that they needed that oven to be online to pay everyone's wages. He said that U.S. Steel's whole policy is not preventative racing. He said that U.S. Steel's whole policy is not preventative maintenance, it's reaction. What's your response to him?
I'm shocked and outraged at that statement. I find it unbelievable because of safety being in our DNA. This is the first thing we talk about at our meetings. This is the first thing we cover in our board meetings. We take this extraordinarily seriously, and so I'd like to learn more about where this came from, because we want to get the facts, and if there's any issue out there where people feel at risk, I need to understand it. So we can follow up with you and perhaps get to the root cause of this, because we value the facts and we will act on the facts.
This is Oliver Morrison from Iron Lab. You may not know the cause of the explosion. Can you say what was happening? Were the ovens being loaded or unloaded? Like what was going on with 13 and 14 when the explosion happened?
Well, I'm going to have Scott Bacaizo, who runs North American Flat Roll. Again, we're not speculating. He can talk about what was going on at that moment, and hopefully that will be satisfactory enough, because we're not going to speculate as to what happened. We got to make sure that the inspectors do their investigative work without us having supposition as to what might have happened and taint the investigation. We've got to get to the truth. Scott?
How many explosions were there yesterday?
Thanks, Dave. Question, I think, was the battery being loaded or unloaded. It was a normal course of business yesterday. So we were charging ovens and we were pushing ovens with pushing coke out of ovens. We had individuals that were prepping for a maintenance job in the area. And that's where we are with the investigation right now. As you can imagine, we went through a lot of sorrow yesterday. Now that we have recovered everybody and our people that are in the hospital are being well taken care of, we want to secure the area so we can get in there and get a good investigation done, and to everyone's point here, make sure that it does not happen again.
Hang on. Scott, there was an important question over here.
Number of explosions.
I'm sorry?
The number of explosions.
There was one explosion.
Can you explain that?
Yes, yeah, I can explain that.
Let him explain
There was
that.
one explosion that involved coke oven gas. The other two, I think, explosions that were called explosions were actually relief pressure valves. When we had the issue on 1314 battery, we had some back pressure into 1920 battery. Those rupture gates is what they're called. They did their job. They released. That's why we saw a bit of a plume when those two occurred, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do from a safety standpoint.
Ryan. I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. We talked about the health and safety of the community. We're very good shape there. We have both 19 and 20 batteries offline, just as abundance of precaution in making repairs to those rupture valves. So they will remain offline until they are safe. And 13 and 14 battery is shut down until we get to the bottom of the investigation and understand what we have to do what we have to do to bring it back online in the future. We'll take one or two more. Go ahead.
What's the return? I know you mentioned there were going to be grief counselors on site, but what is the return to work for the still workers who were inside when the blast did happen? What health precautions, what health monitoring would take place?
Well, we are checking their monitors, or personal gas monitors. Everybody that was in the area had a personal gas monitors. We have fixed monitors in all locations. So obviously we're going through all of that information as part of the investigation. And if we find anything that's a problem, we will let the authorities know. Absolutely. This is a. Yeah, routine maintenance is what they were preparing for. I think it was actually going to happen next week, but we'll get to the bottom of all of that.
And again, still no warnings that you know of ahead of this that would have indicated that anything was wrong there, anything that needed
No.
work urgently?
No, not at that time. Not at that time.
What can you do personally for the families of the injured right now to reach out to them, Mr. Bird, if you could answer that question? Is there something you can do or say to the families of the injured?
Yeah. I can answer that. We have reached out to the families, not only that were injured, but of the two deceased. We will obviously be very upfront with them and take care of any needs that they have initially, and then we will also have long-term health insurance and those types of things that we will work through with them, and they will not be forgotten.
How long do we think this investigation will take to find the cause and make sure it doesn't happen?
I can't comment on that. As I said, right now it's an active investigation. We're working with all the state, federal, our experts that we have brought in from other areas. They're all working together to make sure that we do this properly, and we ensure that it doesn't happen again. I mean, these are brothers and sisters and fathers that unfortunately we have lost. And it's important for us as a company to make sure that it never happens again. Every one of our employees knows that at any time they can stop a job if they feel that it is unsafe. And we encourage that, and that's what we want going forward as well.
Please give us a clearer picture about give us a clearer picture of what the injuries are right now and how those folks are recovering.
I can't comment on that.
For the investment from the pond still, that is what people want to know. What upgrades will be made? What will change from that investment? Can you
Yeah. Well, that'll come out of the investigation.
For the maintenance staff, the ones that were deceased. For the maintenance staff,
I'm
the ones that were deceased.
not going to comment on that, on who was, who was not.
Emissions has there been since yesterday? Are you considering any sort of fence-led monitoring?
Yeah. As you heard the county executive say, we are well below any of our health thresholds. We will continue to monitor that. We monitor it every day. So that is normal course of business.
So are you off-gassing, or I don't know what he's asking?
No, we are not off-gassing. What?
You're not?
No.
Are you producing enough coke to fuel the blast furnaces that you have online right now at capacity?
Yes.
Paul, last question.
Yeah, actually, listen, can you talk a little bit about how much of this plant is actually operating, percentage-wise?
Let me make something clear. We have two priorities right now. Our first priority is to the families that lost loved ones, the injured, to make sure that they are getting the best care that they have. and to continue to do this investigation to find out what happened and make sure it never happens again. I can't tell you exactly the percentage of what we have. We have contingency plans in place all the time to make sure that if something like this happens, we're able to do what we need to do. But our first priority is with the families and our members of our USW and management members that were impacted by this.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I have a really quick question for you, and it has to do, and I don't want to be insensitive because
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there is a press conference in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, wrapping up, addressing the incident, the explosion that happened at a steel plant there in Clairton, Pennsylvania yesterday. It's something that we carried here on Live Impact News for a good chunk of the afternoon stream. Again, we got updates from Governor Shapiro and other officials there in Clairton, Pennsylvania. So, all right. So that press conference is just wrapped up. We're approaching the top of the hour. Let's go check in on our forecast. Let's check in with Becca Birdsall with our full forecast.
Good Tuesday afternoon. Not looking nearly as wet for the second half of the day, with only isolated downpours in the forecast. Not nearly as wet as the first half of the day was. That being said, though, we'll still carry about a 40% chance for a couple of showers throughout the day. Of course, this is rainfall on top of rainfall that we got from yesterday. Soils are very saturated, which is why all of us encompass under a low threat for excessive rainfall. This is mainly for nuisance or localized isolated flooding, just something that will carry likely not only for today but over the next several days as well. Highs today gonna be cool like they have been this past week. Lower 80s is what we'll do across the Charlotte metro and middle 70s across the high country, with clouds and periods of rain on and off throughout the day. Headed off to the Knights game this evening. Actually should be pretty nice, mostly dry, again holding on to a chance for an isolated shower, falling at least to the upper 70s by the time we get to around 9-10 o'clock. It's been a wet month so far. We're only at August 12th. In fact, from August 1st all the way through about the 11th, we picked up almost 6 inches of rainfall, which is more rain than we get for the average for the entire month. A lot of that fell from yesterday. Some locations picking up over 2 inches, including Shelby, Gastonia, over an inch towards Hickory, Rock Hill, Chester, portions of Union and Chesterfield County as well, with an additional anywhere from a quarter to up to around an inch of rainfall as we head from now all the way through about Thursday. So the worst is already over. Here's that setup. We've got that high pressure system off to the east. That's driving in winds from the south and just going to provide ample moisture for rain chances over the following days. Going to be more widespread for today, scattered for Wednesday and Thursday, and a bit more isolated as we end out the work week. Timing this out for you, that rain continues to push off to the east, and as we head towards the evening hours, in exception to the high country, most locations will stay dry. Again, isolated downpour here and there, but don't cancel any plans. Wednesday morning starts off wet. We've got widespread clouds and a couple of light showers, some of which actually could be briefly heavy at times, and scattered showers and thunderstorms can be expected for the afternoon and evening, potentially even with a few peaks of sunshine, but we will carry that pattern into Thursday as well. This is that rinse and repeat cycle, which is why all of us at least encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall all the way through Thursday. Eventually, though, as rain chances taper off, it's going to start to feel a little bit more like summer as temperatures finally rise closer to average, upper 80s to lower 90s Thursday, all the way into the weekend. So we're looking forward mainly to a mostly rain-free Saturday, Sunday, and going to be feeling more like a seasonable August day. Checking in on the tropics, we do have that newest advisory for Tropical Storm Erin. Now, the earliest advisory this morning came out around 5 o'clock, and not much has changed. In fact, winds sustained with Erin are still 45 miles per hour, and it's still moving west at 23. So Erin really hasn't strengthened much in the past 24 hours, and part of the reason why is the Saharan dust layer is interacting with Erin, and the Saharan dust layer often inhibits or prevents tropical systems from being able to strengthen just because it creates a drying layer in the atmosphere, which suppresses clouds and moisture. So as this continues to interact with dust, it is going to slowly slowly progress and slowly strengthen as it continues to push westward. So National Hurricane Center has updated this forecast, now likely to become our first hurricane of the season by the time we go into Friday, potentially a major hurricane heading into this weekend. Does look like it's going to stay away from the East Coast, but keep up to date with that latest forecast on WCNC Plus.
All right, folks, with that, I just want to say hello and thanks for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus, taking over for Nick Sturdivant. We have a great next couple of hours planned out together here before we turn you over to the news at 4, of course, in just 2 hours or so. If you missed it, we are in the midst of Clear the Shelters. This is an annual event we here at WCNC Charlotte take part in, and NBC stations across the nation take part in as well, essentially partnering with local rescues and shelters to highlight the importance of adoption, the fact that this is a super busy time of year for rescues and shelters. They're usually inundated with cats and dogs in the summertime, and also just raising awareness about animal welfare and some of the needs that these shelters and rescues have. So today for us, we've got an interview that we've got as we speak set up and ready to go with one of our rescues in the foothills. So specifically, we've got Heart of the Foothills joining us from Rutherford County. Stephanie Henderson is here to talk about the Clear the Shelters effort and also a few of your adoptable pups. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. I know y'all are busy right now. Hopefully this is going to be a very successful month for you. Tell us a bit about the status of your shelter, your rescue right now. How are you all doing? We kind of prefaced this conversation by saying usually this time of year, it's really busy for rescues. So just curious how things are going for you in Rutherfordton.
Right now, it seems that we have more animals coming in than we do have going out. It's an unfortunate situation. Adoptions are slow, and with dogs and cats both. Cats seem to get adopted faster than dogs do. So we do work on transports to send some to partner rescues out of state, which, rescue is hard everywhere. So right now, rescue is down, adoptions are down in pretty much every county in the nation. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, especially, when people don't fix their animals, and we end up with litters and litters of puppies and kittens coming in all the time. It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, we hear that term used a lot, by our local rescues and shelters. Frequently, the term overwhelming. We hear the importance of spay and neuter all the time from all of the organizations, animal welfare organizations across our area. Speaking of puppies, I want to talk about a couple of the adoptables that you sent to us last night. You have a few pictures here and some bios. First up, we've got Cinnamon, who is a 3-year-old, 45-pound spayed female boxer mix in your care. She seems to have some really great notes. Tell us a bit about Cinnamon and some of her good qualities and what kind of household she might be best for.
Cinnamon is a really good dog. She is dog selective, so that makes it a little bit tougher to get her into a home. She doesn't seem to mind cats, which is awesome. But she probably would benefit from, a home. We would have to do a meet and greet with other dogs to see if it would be a good fit if they were to have another animal in the home. She walks well on a leash. She's house trained. She knows she knows manners. She was adopted from us 3 different times, brought back to us. No fault of her own, unfortunately. Just the way it happened with her. But she's a really good girl. It's shocking that we've had her for so long.
Yeah, she seems really great, and I feel like folks, when we say the term dog selective in the rescue circle, if you will, usually means that they're good with some dogs. They're not good with every dog. So it really does behoove folks to really, as you said, do the meet and greet, because you can find that there are many dog selective dogs who go on to have great lives in households with other dogs. And it really just is a matter of finding the right dog. I've done a lot of foster work, Stephanie, with other groups, across the Charlotte area, and we've seen fosters do well with, let's say smaller dogs, or maybe they do really well with a dog of a different gender, but they kind of butt heads with a dog of a similar gender. So I don't know if you have any notes on the dog selectivity for Cinnamon, but that's probably something that folks can explore if they're really interested in her, right?
Yes, and we would not advise putting her with a female dog around the same age. They would probably need to be either younger or older. I think that she probably needs to be in a home with a dog maybe more her size. That's just something to be determined. And what we try to tell people is, some dogs are like people. We don't always like everybody we meet. And it's the same with some dogs. But yeah, she would be things like that. She would be a great dog for that.
Oh, what a cutie. And we've got up next here Babylon. So we've got a picture of her. And from what we understand, she and another dog, a third dog we're going to profile in just a few moments, they are siblings. So Babylon is 6 months, 40 pounds. She is a spayed female lab mix. And it sounds like she does great in all sorts of scenarios as well, but maybe a little bit energetic.
She is definitely energetic. She does have a lot of energy. She would probably benefit from a home with a fenced-in yard. That is not a requirement to adopt from us, but some dogs would benefit from having a fenced-in yard as opposed to just being walked on a leash. She would probably be a good dog, a good fit for somebody who wants to go hiking and running and is very active outdoors. And we've had her since she was a tiny puppy, which it's unfortunate that we've still had her. But she's a good dog. And with her being in a kennel, when she comes out to meet people, she is a little bit energetic. But that's to be expected when you're in a kennel for, 22, 23 hours a day, and you have that much energy.
Yeah, I will say, I've done some volunteer work at the shelter here in Charlotte where I, go and walk dogs, and sometimes they do get a little cooped up, and, depending on how often they're able to get out. And then sometimes when you see that same dog that you're like, whoa, you've got so much energy, they get into, let's say, a foster home, or they go into the forever home, and then you start to get notes on the dog when they're in essentially a normal living situation, if you will, and their energy levels have somewhat subsided, and they're a big couch potato in some cases. So I'd always urge folks not to judge a dog's personality immediately right out of, off the bat when they're getting out of a kennel. So yeah, I feel like there's probably a lot of potential for her, once she gets into like a routine perhaps. Is that something that you would maybe agree with, Stephanie?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you were telling us that Babylon and Abednego, we've got pictures of him. So they're siblings. So we've got him up right now, his photo, 6 months old, 40 pounds, neutered male lab mix. He's got some great notes too. And you were telling us that they were both from the same litter, and they were parvo puppies. Is that correct?
No, these guys were not parvo puppies.
Oh, okay.
Cinnamon is a parvo puppy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Cinnamon. She was a parvo puppy with her sister Nutmeg, who we still actually have Nutmeg as well. She was returned to us not long ago for some of the same issues that Cinnamon was having, as far as other dogs were concerned. But Abednego and Babylon I think that they would probably be beneficial to go into any type of home setting. I think that they get along great with other dogs, with cats. They would like to go on hikes and do a lot of outdoor activities. And they would probably also be the kind that would, at the end of the day, would want to just sprawl across the couch and watch a movie with you.
Oh, they look so absolutely sweet. And these are just a few of the pups that you all have up for adoption. Can you tell us about your adoption process and how things might be a little bit different this month and going forward because of Clear the Shelters? How best can people find that information? And I believe y'all also handle cats, is that correct?
We do.
Okay, yeah, so tell us how folks can find more information.
They can always go to our website at heartofthefoothills.org, and they can give us a call or send us an email, whatever is easiest for them. They can even come by. Sometimes we like to operate on appointments, but we'll never turn anybody away if they don't have one. And so they can come in and meet the dogs if they're interested in adopting. right now, all of our dogs are half price. So our adult dogs are $75. Our puppies are $125. Our long stay dogs, we could probably work out some kind of pricing arrangement with them to get them into homes if needed. And we don't usually do on-the-spot adoptions, but that's something that we are loosening the reins on, and we are allowing people to adopt when they come in, as long as they're of age to sign the contracts.
Got it. If I could, because I know that y'all have really gone through a lot, not just with the situation, how you're getting a lot of animals in general during this tough season, but the fact that y'all survived Helene, essentially, worked through some pretty big obstacles when that storm was coming through and have come through out the other side and are continuing to do some really great work. How has it been since Helene? I mean, tell us about what y'all went through in the immediate aftermath of the storm and how things have improved or maybe even not improved since the storm came through.
After Helene, our power was out for a little while. We went in and we were working in the dark, and we had, I don't even know how many dogs and cats show up that were misplaced from the hurricane. And we ended up having to send some to partner rescues because there were so many of them. We had to have some cats returned to us. I don't remember exactly how many, but there were a handful of cats that were returned to us that were adopted in the Asheville area, and the homes were destroyed. And so we had to take those cats back while the people got up on their feet. We worked with other adopters that had, lost their homes and their belongings, and if they wanted to keep their animals, we were working with them to make sure that they could find a way to keep their animals so they did not have to enter back into the shelter environment. But since then, things have slowly calmed down, I guess, but it's still, there's a lot of strays that it's a lot. There's a lot of strays daily that come in to both our facility and to the animal shelter from where they've been lost or abandoned. I think that, go ahead.
No, continue.
I was going to say, I was just thinking that a lot of people have lost their homes due to, job loss or, even still related to the hurricane. And we end up with a lot of people abandoning their animals due to that, and which is unfortunate because the shelters are full. So they just don't know what else to do. And they just leave them on the side of the road. And so that's how we end up with a lot of our strays.
It's tough. That is so tough. And it's probably not an issue that folks immediately think of when they think of a natural disaster. But I mean, we saw it with Helene, and we saw it, recently in Texas where they had that severe flooding, deadly flooding, where folks were losing their homes and getting trapped as well. And you had rescues coming from out of state to try to help. And I mean, I think folks don't always think about the pet aspect and how some of the pets can get displaced as well, and what that does for local groups in the area. So I commend you for all the work that you're doing. What can the public do to help you? Even if they're not able to adopt an animal at this time, Stephanie, what would you say you would tell somebody, next step, if you can't adopt, do this. This would be so helpful for us.
I think that volunteering is a huge help. When people find strays and the shelter is full, I think that them, offering to foster until we can find placement inside the shelter or in a new home would be greatly helpful. And that way we can continue to build towards a no-kill. I think that that's probably the biggest, is just having the community come together to foster the stray animals. And keep them safe until we can help, until we can step in and find room for them in the system.
Yeah. Do you have any donation opportunities? Are there special projects that you're trying to fund on your end, or just ways that folks can give money as well and contribute towards all of the efforts that you're working on?
We do have a TNR program. It's kind of small right now. People can definitely donate towards the TNR program. We unfortunately don't have the funding to fix all the feral cats in our county. So it would be nice and helpful if people could donate towards that so we can continue to fix the community cats in the county.
Okay.
That's the big issue right there too.
Yeah. Stephanie, anything else you'd like to leave us with before we wrap things up, either about Clear the Shelters or just in general, what folks should know about the work that y'all are doing and the issues that you're facing?
I think that it's important that people know that we are here to help, and if we can't provide immediate help, to give us time, and we will try to come up with a solution to help them any way we can, and that they just need to be patient and not give up on us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for not giving up on the animals. I know it's really tough. I mean, we hear time and time again from our rescues and shelters in the area that this is arduous work, kind of seems like it's never ending at some point. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And thanks for your time today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And folks at home, if you want to learn more about Heart of the Foothills, or if you want to learn more about specifically the animals that we talked about that are up for adoption, we've got information on our website, WCNC.com, a whole article where you can look up Cinnamon and Abendigo and Babylon, as well as more information about the rescue itself. And don't forget as well, we've got a big Clear the Shelters adoption event that's coming up at various shelters in our area, but we specifically will be on Saturday, August 23rd from 9 to 5 at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control Shelter on Byram Drive. So we hope to see you there. You can always learn more information as well by texting the word PETS to 704-329-3600. We also have a QR code that you can scan right now, which will take you to an article with more information on the campaign. And stay tuned, of course, throughout the month, we will be focusing on different shelters around our area that are participating in this awesome campaign. With that, we want to turn to here on our Live Impact News feed, a new feed that is coming in. This is from the D.C. area. We have U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, giving an update on crime numbers in the D.C. area, also announcing the indictment of a Haitian gang leader, they say. His name is Jimmy Cherizier. They say that there are various violations involved with his activities. We've got this feed pulled up right now. Let's listen in live.
Put this up. Thanks. Thank you very much.
All right, sorry, folks. Looks like that literally just wrapped a few moments ago, but you are seeing some of the information and materials that they placed out there for reporters as they were making this announcement of this indictment, as well as information about the number of homicides, I'm understanding, is what they were talking about in D.C. Of course, this comes as there was the declaration of a crime emergency.
There's been a great deal of discussion.
Okay,
about
let's listen.
crime
It
in
sounds
the
like we still have
district.
some audio going.
And the other day, I wanted to get a sense of what is actually happening in the District of Columbia. I asked for the number of teens who have been shot and killed by gunfire. Teens, everyone under the age of 20. As you can see, in 2024, we have, I believe I said it was, how many? Yeah. As you can see in 2024, we have 29 individuals who were shot and killed in the district, all teens, some as young as 3 years of age, okay, because of gunfire. Some of these cases are solved, some of them are not solved. But what this makes clear to me is that there is a whole community that is suffering because of the violent crime in this district. And anyone who wants to tell me the crime is down and that we don't need an emergency focus on crimes of violence, all they need to do is take a look at this and talk to the loved ones and the family members of these individuals, all shot and killed long before their time. Now, over here are the individuals who were shot and killed under the age of 20, all teenagers in 2025. And the number here is 16. Again, all members of the minority community here. I don't know how many of these cases have been solved, but what I can tell you is, again, It's guns on the streets. It's individuals who are not concerned about accountability, who don't have any reason to fear law enforcement. I am here today to tell you that on behalf of all of these victims, all of these families, that they're going to be accountable, that we are going to make a difference, and that we are going to make sure that law enforcement is focused on these innocent, now silent victims of crime in the district.
Do you have a per capita breakdown? I mean, how does DC, you're talking about the number of teenage gun deaths here, how does that compare for 100,000?
Anywhere else?
Other cities? I mean, where do we rank?
All I know is we rank in deaths. 2 years ago, we were one of the fourth highest. We were the fourth highest in the United States. I don't need any more statistics. All I need are people to recognize that these were vibrant human beings cut down because of illegal guns. I guarantee you that every one of these shootings was with an illegal gun. All right? And I guarantee you that every one of these individuals was shot and killed by someone who felt that they were never going to be caught. And I want to send a message that we are going to catch you, that we are going to change the laws, that if you're 14, 15, 16, 17, we're going to bring you into the justice system. No more of this D.C., council, if they're under 16 or if they're under 19 or if they're under 25, we'll give them probation. No more. I'm done with that.
You said it's guns on the...
hurdles that you face, and you're just talking about right there, but what can you conceivably do as the D.C. U.S. Attorney to address those laws, address the D.C. crime lab, which is not accredited, and also at the same time address some of the prosecutorial issues you talked about?
Okay.
What can your office conceivably do?
Those are great questions. Number one, the DC Crime Lab is now accredited and validated very recently. So Dr. Diaz has communicated that to us, and we are working with the DC Crime Lab. Our concern is making sure that we have enough people who are able to analyze the DNA and all of the testing that we need to have done. That's number one. Number two, as it relates to prosecution, I have been very clear that Title 16 is not enough. Under Title 16, if you are 16 or 17 years of age, we can get you for rape 1, murder, robbery 1, burglary 1. But if you shoot someone and don't kill them, I don't have jurisdiction. It goes to the Attorney General, the State Attorney General, Brian Schwab, and the focus is family court rehabilitation. Now, I was a family court judge in New York for a short period of time. The mission there is not punishment, it's rehabilitation, as evidenced by, do we have those posters? Yeah, we had a poster with what you get is yoga, and you get ice cream socials in family court. Well, I'm done with yoga and ice cream socials. We've got to change the law to bring them into the justice system. We've got to get rid of the 3 statutes or 3 laws passed by the D.C. Council. Number one is the Youth Rehabilitation Act, where you basically say with the Youth Rehabilitation Act that what we're going to do is we're going to say, if you're sentenced and you're under the age of 25, that the judge can give you probation irrespective of what the crime is. That's nonsense. And that's why a judge, and you're tired of hearing about me say this, that's why a judge gave a 19-year-old 2-3 weeks ago, and I wrote an op-ed piece, gave a 19-year-old probation, and I understand it's 2 years probation to go to college with no mandate, for getting on a public bus with an illegal gun, shooting an individual in the chest, which to me is intent to kill. And he walked away, after we convicted him, he walked away with no jail time. If that's what you want in this district, then I'm the wrong person to be United States Attorney. Number one, the Incarceration Reduction Act. The Incarceration Reduction Act that the D.C. left-leaning council passed says if you're 25 years old and you were sentenced to 15 years as a young kid for probably murder, even a serial murderer, We can let you out if you're 25. We can let you out because, not because you're rehabilitated, not because the offense wasn't that bad, but because we can. And that's got to go. All right? And the third thing is record sealing. I go through all of the effort to get a conviction, and they want to seal the convictions. They want to say, we want to seal convictions after 5 years. If I'm a mother, and thank God my kids are older, if I'm a mother, I want to know if a nanny has an assault conviction. If I'm an employer, I want to know if this person has been convicted of larceny or petty larceny. Or if, say, I'm not in a public school, but I got a private, like, teaching a tennis group. I need to know if this guy's a predator, a pedophile. Everything about the D.C. Council's focus is defendant-oriented. I'm oriented to these people, and the people of the district are as well.
You just walked through the
this federal takeover that you talked about a little bit. Well, you talked a lot about it, but any special?
I don't have any special powers. I wish I did.
But can you also talk about where you stand on hiring prosecutors and judges?
I am. I am. I'm not going to bore you with the facts. Don't quote me on that. That was off the record. I can only hire during certain periods once there's been an ad or some kind of posting, and then I can hire. Okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing the best I can. The president has given me the permission to hire. This is an office that has been neglected. And I'll say it publicly. It's been neglected. With people signing contracts, they didn't know what they were signing. All right, it just kind of ran on its own. Not anymore. This is an office where nobody seemed to care that we were down 90 lawyers, 60 investigators, and paralegals. I do. And so my effort is to get people who want to work in the nation's capital, who want to work in the largest United States Attorney's office in the country, and the best office. Because we're not just federal prosecutors, we're local prosecutors. We get down and dirty in street crime. And that is what really motivates a lot of my prosecutors.
Once again, folks, we've been listening into a briefing from U.S. Attorney for District Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. One of the topics she was broaching today, and most recently we're hearing her talking about Washington's crime numbers. She's specifically speaking on the number of homicides this year. This does come after yesterday's announcement from President Trump that he was declaring a crime emergency in D.C., was deploying the National Guard and taking control of the Metropolitan Police Department, creating an ongoing saga as we see here today. More information on this to come. Meantime, we're turning to some local headlines. We've got a child trafficking search that's underway, started in South Carolina, has apparently made its way to Cleveland County. A lot of details to sort through here, but our Miles Harris has been on this story all day long. Miles is joining us right now from Cleveland County. So it's a bit of a convoluted story, but from what we understand, Miles, authorities are searching for someone who is linked to child trafficking potentially, and he may or may not be in Cleveland County. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Vanessa, I know it's a very, very layered story, but that's some of the things that we've been combing through throughout the day, and that's some of the information that we are trying to gather as well. But as far as we know, yes, those search efforts do include here in Cleveland County. They also reached down to some parts in South Carolina as well. But let me go ahead and break down some of the details that we have been able to try to piece together up to this point now. So we know that U.S. Marshals and law enforcement in both North and South Carolina are looking for Ricky Dean Clinton in this case. Now, the 40-year-old is wanted for some of those charges that you mentioned involving human child trafficking in this case, and there's also offering a cash reward and any information that can lead to that arrest. So we know that Ricky Dean Clayton is wanted because it involves a teenager that was based out or had lived in South Carolina, and it's from what we've been able to gather up to this point, the incident and the offense happened here in Cleveland County, which is where the alleged suspect in this case was living at the time. Now, again, investigators have not been able to find any tracks or traces of where Clinton may be. I do want to go ahead and list off some of the charges that the U.S. Marshals, after putting out that wanted poster, are listing as some of the charges that he is facing. Now, some of those charges include human trafficking of a child, indecent liberties with a child, first-degree kidnapping, and even delivering a controlled substance to a to a statutory rape or a minor statutory rape in this case. Now, again, a lot of serious and heavy charges in this case, but again, we know that there are investigators from North and South Carolina that are looking for Clinton right now at this hour. Vanessa.
Over our internal communications on this, topic that we're touching on today, and I see that you all have done a lot of work. Pulling incident reports, you're contacting authorities. Who all have you tried to reach? Have you had any success getting a hold of anyone at this point? Are we learning anything by documents, perchance? I guess walk us through some of how you're trying to get this information so we can all have a better understanding of what's going on here.
Right. No, absolutely, Vanessa. So we have reached out to several law enforcement agencies, both in North and South Carolina. We have reached out to law enforcement agencies in Anderson County. We've even reached out to some in even Gaffney, South Carolina. We've also reached out to law enforcement and even U.S. Marshals here in Cleveland County, just trying to gather as much of that information as we can. Now, Cleveland County, they did give us the incident report tied to this this case and this search efforts with this individual here. So that's where we've been able to at least get some of that information. We've also been able to at least talk to a neighbor or two from the area where Clinton lived, where this offense took place, and so that's going to be included for our package here at 5 and 6 o'clock tonight. But again, we have obviously been spending a lot of time trying to comb through any information, reach out to these agencies, trying to get as much information with those search efforts and this investigation as we possibly can. But again, as far as what we have so far, we have heard back at least to some capacity from the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office here, and as well as hearing from some of the neighbors in the community in that area where this incident did take place. Vanessa.
Curious, Miles, in speaking with neighbors, did they recognize this man? Did they understand the case and feel like, oh, maybe I saw him or I saw the person he's accused of being with, that sort of thing?
So they did, they mentioned that they did know who the individual was. They did admit that they didn't have very much contact. They just know where that person, or the suspect in this case, lived. They were there when they actually had seen the police responding to this incident. But again, as far as any constant communication, if they've seen or heard this individual, no, they have not. But again, some of the information that we are still working to gather at this hour is the reaction from the community here, but a lot of concern, at least of what we've been able to gather at this hour from those residents, especially when we're talking about the magnitude and the details from this case so far.
Yeah, certainly a concerning case. Once again, 5 and 6, as you mentioned, that's when folks can see reporting here on WCNC Plus. Miles Harris, thank you so much, and we will definitely stay tuned to see what you come up with for the evening newscasts. We appreciate it. Okay, folks, we've got another briefing that is underway as we speak. The State Department is holding its regular update and Q&A with reporters. Obviously, as you can imagine, with all of the headlines and concerning information coming out of Gaza, there have been a lot of questions in recent briefings regarding this. I can imagine that will come up again today. So let's listen in and see what spokesperson Tammy Bruce is saying.
And I can't say for each situation because each one is different, but I know the goal here at the State Department and why I felt very comfortable working with the people in this building is that information is key, right? Is that knowing what's happening matters. That is your job as journalists. I respect that immensely. It keeps me centered. Knowing that we have to explain things or talk about them makes us view the news as it's coming up in a slightly different way. Makes us ask questions. That will never end. And so I trust that, well, I will be in some fashion asking the same questions. I know you will be as too. Andrea Mitchell.
Thank you so much.
Andrea Mitchell, please. Andrea Mitchell.
Thank you so much, Tammy, and congratulations on your new adventure.
Thank you. That's what it will be, I'm sure.
And I have a couple of things to follow up on that. But
yes.
First of all, do we have any update on what Ambassador Huckabee said would be 16 new distribution centers for food in Gaza? And as the U.S. tries to deal with two wars simultaneously as part of the challenge that the president is facing,
right,
with this summit, President Zelensky said today that after the overnight attacks, which were throughout his country, that there is evidence, as far as he's concerned, that President Putin is not committed to peace, but is committed to plans for a new offensive against Ukraine. So going into these negotiations, with what President Zelensky says is an imbalance in what is going on the battlefield right now, how does the president hope to try to get President Putin to abandon this commitment that seems obvious from the battlefield, by day after day advancing?
Let me answer the first question about.
Maybe more precisely say, and accept the ceasefire.
First of all, we have nothing else to announce regarding the ambassador's remarks about the increase in sites for GHF. Of course, that would be welcome news, but when we see that we have more, we'll let you know. I'll remind you also that the president's not calling this a negotiation. He is not the one that asked for it. This is what, as I've equated to you before, his remarks were that this is to see what's happening, to see what's possible. So the negotiation, I think, is certainly not the right word. How he expects to get to where he gets, I won't have details for you in that regard, but there's a reason why he's the one there and we aren't. He is clearly, the list that I read out to you regarding being the president of peace is an astounding one. Perhaps it's situations around the globe that just didn't interest other people. But for President Trump, everyone matters. He sees these dynamics, which his presence and the power of the United States is able to change, and he knows that. He has many tools in his tool chest. We know, of course, that he had remarked about secondary sanctions on those who are buying Russian oil. That's one thing of many that can happen. We know, of course, of NATO's commitment regarding defensive weapons and helping and assisting Ukraine. There's many things that are moving that should have an impact that President Trump, I don't know what his approach will be. What I do know is that I'm grateful that he's the president, that I'm able to be here, read to you a list of ceasefires and peace agreements, and know that he's meeting with Putin in regard to one of the most outrageous dynamics that we've experienced. I will also remind people that he has met alone with President Zelensky. He has met alone with European leaders. This is a man who is doing everything possible and fairly to get an end to this carnage.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yes, ma'am.
There's been a lot written that by just granting Vladimir Putin, who has been charged with war crimes by people, by other countries around the world, by granting him a summit with the leader of the United States on U.S. soil, it's already a victory for Putin because he is the aggressor here and he has refused to agree to a ceasefire.
Andrea, this will be it. The president is not operating on what what something might look like. He's operating on how to stop obscene carnage among innocent civilians in Ukraine, and that is he took some heat when he started talking to Putin, because Biden had talked to him for 3 years. You don't make peace through performative actions or theater. You make it by talking to people, and this is what he's committed to. This is the end goal. The end goal is not performance or perception, or it's getting the job done. And I'm honored that I can be here and at least be a part of reminding people, because he's done. We know him. He's a remarkable achiever, not just in business, but in knowing people and knowing how to get what he wants. And he wants peace, and he wants an end to carnage around the world. And this country is in this position now because of him and because of the power of the American people, and we're going to use it. And so I'm praying for a good result. And with President Trump, we very well may get one. Yes, Daphne.
Thank you, Tammy, and I'll echo my congratulations on your nomination.
Not that anyone knows what I'm going to mention at the end of the briefing now, but yes, go ahead. Thank you.
On the Human Rights Report, the State Department has cut down criticism of some countries that have extensive records of human rights abuse, including in El Salvador, where the State Department said there was no credible reports of significant human rights abuses, cutting an entire paragraph from last year's report that mentioned issues such as arbitrary arrests and harsh and life-threatening prison conditions. What is this change based on? Has El Salvador taken any steps to change these issues, or how did the State Department determine that these abuses were no longer taking place?
Well, I'm not going to speak from country to country. This is something that is available. People can go look. Again, Americans, obviously, the reporters here in this room have had it for a little bit of time and have had a chance to take a look at it, which is important. Again, state.gov, and you can search for a human rights report, and you'll get all the countries, et cetera. First thing I want to mention is that every administration in a transition year has to deal with this particular product, this particular report, for the last calendar year to be released by a new administration. And there's always changes. As you might imagine, if someone is the new president, you got a new administration, the American people made a choice, and they clearly are taking over for the previous administration. Each administration, like with President Trump, reflects a value system and an agenda and a vision that convince the American people to vote for them. And in this case, President Trump always, as ever, I should say, was clear and obvious about the nature of what he wanted to achieve, and the American people agreed with him. This report, as a result, because it was also late, and many of you noted that, it was late because we weren't, just like with other administrations, we weren't going to release something compiled and written by the previous administration. It needed to change based on the point of view and the vision of the Trump administration. And so those changes were made. In addition to the fact that one of the things we're proud of, and what you'll also see next year, is the notion of something being readable by people, something being a reflection overall of what it is that we're dealing with certain nations. So it does not, the restructuring doesn't reflect a change of any U.S. policy when it comes to human rights. It certainly promotes, as does our work, respect for human rights around the globe. It does not reflect on any particular country. We've stopped ranking countries, by the way. People can make their own decisions about what nations are doing. So that is one thing also that is over. We also, I want to mention the notion of how large the report had become in its condemnation of nations and its the detailed listing of certain things. But what I can say is, and I think it's pretty clear, that you can issue reports, you can make them giant, but it depends on what we do. The Trump administration has proven from day one their commitment to human rights around the globe and to the quality of people's lives. We will have perhaps some, in this case, smaller reports, but I would suggest that you watch the actions that are taken by an administration and that commitment to human rights. In this case, you could have giant reports from the Biden administration as the world began to collapse into war, into conflicts, and it's a reminder. So reports are important. Transparency about our positions are important. That's what these reports will serve. And I can tell you again, for the people who work here at the State Department, these reports do matter, and our actions as a nation also back up the nature of our commitment to human rights.
I understand that this is a narrowed report, but can you explain why this was changed and why an entire paragraph on rights abuses was omitted from this report?
Well, again, I won't go into the details of each country. What I do know is that the approach and the attitude of what we expect, and new complaints are added in. Complaints regarding censorship of people in various countries has been added in that had not been dealt with before. So I'm not going to speak on the decisions that our diplomats have made in looking at the nature of the report of the data that they're receiving, but I can tell you that the nature of the attitude, the reason for the report hasn't changed. It is to make sure people know what's happening around the world, what our posture is toward that, and our actions show our willingness and our commitment to changing the quality of life in people around the world. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. I just want to follow up on Nadia's question. You said that you urge Israel always to investigate, and they do investigate in some incidents. But I want to go back to Sunday's incidents when an airstrike struck a tent of journalists. 4 of them are my colleagues, killing them, and there is no need for investigation here because the IDF statement was clear that they targeted Anas al-Sharif, my colleague, claiming that he's a leader of a Hamas cell that fires rockets into Israel. without providing any proof. And this will add to 238 journalists who died in Gaza in 2 years. 11 of them are my colleagues, 11 of them. And my question is, are you comfortable with all the claims and excuses that Israel made to target those journalists, whether they are my colleagues or the other 200?
Well, what I can tell you, and I think what's been apparent from this podium, is our concern about the loss of any innocent life. We've made that clear. The work of the people in this building is committed to that. And it's every day, every briefing certainly, we have examples of that. It is difficult for you. Some of you are war reporters, and you go into those zones, and I respect that immensely. So I'm not in a position, nor will I discuss my feelings. That's not what I'm here for, whether I'm comfortable or uncomfortable. What I will tell you is that we refer you to Israel for information regarding al-Sharif. Israel has released evidence that Sharif was part of Hamas and was supportive of the Hamas attack on October 7th. They're the ones who have the evidence. They're the ones who can be reached, and will hopefully talk with you and certainly talk with others who reach out to them. I will remind you, and this is, again, as we're dealing with a complicated, horrible situation, is that Hamas historically has had members who are embedded in society, including posing as journalists. It is a horrible thing to do for those of you who are committed to finding information for people, to be in that situation. It's horrible in any war. I think some of us, if not most of us, have met someone who's been injured or know of someone who's been killed, who we've worked with because of a war situation. They are a terrorist organization. They launch rockets from near hospitals. They have bases under hospitals and schools. We've seen this happen over and over again. We've become in some ways inured to the inhumanity of that. And what I can tell you is what this administration is trying to do, is trying to stop it, finally, once and for all. That's what I can speak to, is Secretary Rubio's focused passion on getting things done in what is a short period of time. And my goodness, it's been 7 months, and they're doing it. And that's what, again, regarding the specific instance, very big news, but that's my request and my comments on that exclusively. Yes, sir. We're moving on. Go ahead, Tom.
I mean, you've said on the killing of these journalists that you refer us to the government of Israel.
Yes.
I mean, this is one of the worst, if not the worst, single attack on journalists in modern history, this particular incident on Sunday. As of all the journalists being killed, probably many of them by American weapons that are supplied by the US.
Well, let's not, I'm sorry. I respect you enough to know, to not project something that serious and saying probably. Let's leave that out.
The vast majority of weapons that are used have been supplied by the United States, courtesy of the US taxpayers. So there is a very strong accountability issue for the American government. So on this instance, has there been any internal process to look at what happened and to see whether it was within the laws of war?
Well, obviously, there's many internal processes. I'm discussing with you a suggestion about who to reach out to, who has the answers for you. And that is due to the fact that, more than aware, of course there's internal processes, which I will not be discussing with you because of the nature of them and the importance of the diplomatic work that is continuing to this day to stop that carnage.
Is there an internal process on this particular incident?
I'm not going to discuss the details for you. I'm not going to do that, and I think you know, and I appreciate you need to ask the question, but we're in the midst of not just any conflict, but one that we have stood by and worked on and spoken and dealt with everyone from the beginning of this administration to stop. Special envoys, the president, the secretary, food aid, the coverage, my comments here from the podium. Yes, I mean, it's clearly something that the Trump...
We talk about censorship of ordinary Britons becoming increasingly routine in the last year. And one of the cases relates to the killing of 3 young girls when there was an online speculation, which was false, that it was carried out by an asylum seeker. There was then very serious incitement to violence against asylum seekers in the UK leading to very, very violent incidents, and people were prosecuted for that. It's a criminal offence to incite violence and racial hatred in the UK. Your report seems to be suggesting that it's a human right for people to have the freedom to carry out this incitement on American social media platforms. Is that what is a new principle in this report?
I would ask everyone to go and read the reports for themselves and come to their own conclusion about the nature of where we stand. We've been very vocal about the issue of censorship, people being able to speak their mind, but it also can't be distilled into a couple of sentences that project a particular political point of view. I say, for context, read the reports yourselves. All right, and now, yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Tammy. Appreciate it. I have two questions. Russia's Kremlin noted that North Korean troops will continue to be stationed in Russia, even if the war between Russia and Ukraine ends. Do you think this will be an issue in the upcoming negotiation between President Trump and President Putin?
Well, first, again, we'll answer this specifically, is that this is not a negotiation that is happening on Friday. And I do know that there is a very specific, I won't know exactly where the conversation goes. Of course, none of us can know that, except for the two men involved. But we know that, of course, the topic is Ukraine. All right, we are going to move on here. Yes, Sean.
Thanks. Best of luck in the future, and thanks for doing these briefings.
Of course, my pleasure. Most of the time.
Most of the time. Well,
yes.
Maybe not. Can I actually continue with what Tom was asking?
Sure.
You mentioned the human rights reports. In the human rights report, the GC is politically biased in the past, and censorship is something that you're taking up. Why is this a human rights abuse in your view? I mean, Secretary Rubio has himself said that the United States is going to monitor social media, people coming to the United States, that they should keep it open. He's revoked visas on account of statements that people have made. Why in this case, in the case of the UK, in the case of Germany, in the case of France, why is this a human rights violation?
Well, I can tell you that we consider freedom of expression to be a foundational component of a functioning democracy. Societies are strengthened by free expression of opinion, and government censorship is intolerable in a free society. Freedom of expression does remain under threat in many parts of the world. As outlined in the 2024 Human Rights Report, governments continue to use censorship, arbitrary or unlawful surveillance, and restrictive laws against disfavored voices, often on political or religious grounds. And no matter really how disagreeable someone's speech may be, criminalizing it or silencing it by force only serves as a catalyst for further hatred, suppression, and polarization. That's why.
Sure. Thanks for your response. Can I just pursue that, though? In the case of the UK in particular, and in the case of Germany, because of its history, incitement is considered something that's could be criminally liable. Does the United States see that as absolutely wrong? That for example, for the UK to say that this is a public safety issue, people might attack migrants because they falsely.
Well, again, as I've said at the start, I'm not going to go into the details of what is found or discussed in each of the country reports, and I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Yes, ma'am, there in the green. Thank you.
So Israel was recently accused of killing Saifullah Mosallet just over a month ago, one of the dozens of Palestinian American Israel has illegally detained or killed. Mohammed Ibrahim is the most recent case, a Palestinian American teenager from Florida who now has scabies while in Israeli detention. Mohammed's family is in Palestine right now attempting to free him. What is the Trump administration doing to release him and other U.S. citizens from Israel's illegal detention?
Oh, thank you for that. I'm not, as we've had to say before, going into the details of actions we're taking diplomatically, what negotiations might exist. We certainly are aware of those reports, and there's really no higher concern for the State Department than the safety and well-being of American citizens. Saeed. Yes, Saeed, please. Saeed, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Tammy, and best of luck. And maybe you'll run into you in the stakeout outside.
I would be so lucky if I saw you again.
I'm going to be there.
I'm looking forward to it. I will get you on the Amtrak.
I will definitely be there, for sure.
Thank you, sir.
My question to you
Yes, sir.
regarding...
All right, folks, we're pivoting away from the State Department briefing, and we are turning now to a local effort that we've been highlighting throughout the month of August. We're talking about Clear the Shelters here. So day after day, we've been speaking with a local rescue or shelter who's participating with this magnificent campaign to try to get as many pets adopted as possible, raise awareness about animal welfare and how we can all play a part in that. And so we're really excited to join now with some folks in Lincoln County. We are speaking right now with Helping Animals to Survive. This is essentially a nonprofit, no-kill partner for the Lincoln County Animal Shelter. And so we have Ken Phelps, who's joining us right now. You're a board member. You do a lot of work with HATS, and also, of course, by nature of what your group does, a lot of work with the Lincoln County Animal Shelter, too. So thanks so much for joining us here in the Live Impact News studio.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Well, we're really excited to talk about all that you do and talk about some of your adoptable pets. You've shared some pictures and bios with us ahead of time, and they got some real cuties, so we're excited to talk about those. I guess first off, I'd love to talk about the no-kill element that y'all have been spearheading in Lincoln County. This has been underway for, from what I understand, more than 10 years is something that's been a priority for your group, and y'all have been able to achieve the no-kill status for the Lincoln County Shelter. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, it all started, I believe, in 2013. And there was a group of people that approached the board commissioners in Lincoln County, and they asked if they could get the county to consider being a no-kill shelter. The county at that time, they were not aware or not keen to that project, so it took a lot of letter writing, a lot of promotions, a lot of people involved in getting it done. Slowly but surely, the commissioners of the county said, okay, we'll consider going to a no-kill. But for the first couple years, they didn't put anything in place to do that. And then they had a change of personnel, and the new director at the shelter was able to implement things. And it took a couple years to become a no-kill, but I believe it was in June of 2027 that we officially became a no-kill. The no-kill requirements are 12 consecutive months of 90% or better release rate, and you have to do that every month. If you fall behind even 89.9%, that no-kill goes away and you have to start all over again. And fortunately, we've been able to do it and maintain that for a number of years now. And we've not fallen below that 90% in all those years, although sometimes it was very, very close, and we had to put an extreme effort in getting some of the dogs and cats adopted.
I mean, I can imagine how difficult maintaining a status like that can be, not just any time, but maybe particularly now, because I feel like, you know, with some of my volunteer work with at least Charlotte Shelter, I've heard that there's kind of a golden era, if you will, during the pandemic when lots of folks, at least here in Charlotte, wanted to adopt pets. They wanted someone to keep them company while they were working from home primarily or locked down on quarantine. And then kind of after that, it feels like there were various factors that went into play, but now we're starting to see a lot of animals come into shelters, and sometimes it does feel like it's never ending, at least from what we're seeing here in the Charlotte area and kind of the surrounding suburbs. How is it in Lincoln County, from what you understand?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
The pandemic, we had a lot of dogs adopted. We do it at the PetSmart in Lincolnton, and for 2 or 3 years, that PetSmart was the #1 adoption center in all the Southeast. And that includes, I believe, other competitors as well. And from what the managers told me, the numbers weren't even close. Unfortunately, when the pandemic was over, people started going back to work, and all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, that dog I adopted, well, what do I do with it now? I'm going to be gone all day. And they try maybe to get it rehomed, but unfortunately, some cases, they basically just drop the dog off someplace and let the dog fend for itself, and that's the sad part of it. But we have to look at it as every dog we get adopted is that's one more that we don't have to worry about in the shelter. So
Yeah. And well, speaking of getting dogs adopted, we've prepared a bit of a slideshow for folks so we can go through some of the pictures that you sent. And I'll kind of direct you. We have a little monitor. Ken, if you ever want to look off to the side, you can see what is on the stream. So right now it's us, but we're about to show Randall first off, because Randall here is adoptable. He's 5 years old, neutered male boxer mix, and he's got some great notes from what I understand. Y'all do a lot of work with volunteering, and so I can imagine you have some volunteers with the shelter who've spent some time with Randall and they've gotten to know him. So what can you tell us about Randall?
Well, Randall has been with us probably the longest. He's been with us, I think, since December of last year. We've had him at our adoption event. Randall is a great dog. He's very friendly. He likes to be a lap dog. He can be dog selective, and that's the case of a lot of dogs. They have a tendency to, after they've been in the kennel, they want to be protective, I guess. So Randall we'd love to have a meet and greet with other dogs. We've had a couple, and it just hasn't worked out yet. But we will find the right home for him.
Well, I mean, and I think that is a great segue into maybe talking about the term dog selective, because we used it actually in the last segment that we did for Clear the Shelters here on Live Impact. But it's a term that we hear in rescue where you have a dog who probably has the potential to get along well with other dogs, but you just kind of have to find out what that factor is. Is it, if Randall's a male, does he get along better with female dogs? Or does Randall get along better with dogs his own size versus smaller dogs? Any indication that he might have a certain, dog that he would get along with? You haven't found it yet, and it's potential that you just...
No, and at our shelter, they do a kind of a let the dogs roam in their play area together. They don't just bring one dog out and leave it. Some of our shelter personnel have been trained to handle dogs that are in a group. And Randall is out there in those groups a lot of times, but sometimes he has a tendency to be maybe a little pushy towards other dogs. We just don't know. Some dogs don't like little dogs. Some dogs don't like bigger dogs. So it's hard to say where Randall's focus is. A lot of times it can be just, if we do have a dog that's adopted, it's a slow process in introducing him to other dogs. Let them know that he is part of the pack, and that's exactly what they are, whether it be 2 dogs or 5 dogs. When they get to know each other and they become accepted or accept other dogs, that becomes a pack instinct for them.
Yeah. Well, I would urge folks not to write Randall off just because, I've seen multiple cases where either with training or just taking the time, as you mentioned, being nice and slow, Randall could probably find, a household that he would get along great with, whoever the family member is. But we've got another pup to share in the meantime. So our next pup up is Fred. So give us a second. We're going to get Fred up on the screen. So looks like Fred is 67 pounds, neutered male terrier mix. Good guy to be outdoors, being, running around, scrappy dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. Randall is basically a typical pit bull mix. He's like a blue pit. So if you look closely at Randall, he has some scars on his face, so we know there's been some difficulty in his life in the past. But he still is real friendly. He loves people, and typical pit bulls or the mixes, they love kids. They absolutely love kids. A lot of people don't realize that the early 1900s, they were considered the nanny dog.
Yep.
People loved them because they loved kids and they were protective of their kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he looks like a cutie, and I'd certainly love to see him in a forever home, considering the fact that you just mentioned it sounds like maybe he has been through some tough times. We've got Jersey up next. Ooh, I love the ears on Jersey.
Jersey's one of my favorites.
Yeah, tell us about her.
Well, Jersey has been to 2 or 3 of our adoption events. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why she hasn't been adopted.
Oh.
She's sweet, as I mentioned to you in the bio I sent. She has a tendency to be protective when she's within a barrier, like a crate or a cage or something like that. She becomes a totally different dog when she's out. She's happy, she plays, she likes people. All those transitions from the cage to outside, they go away once she's out. And
Yeah.
she is very, very active.
I just love her face. She's got like, I don't know, almost like a Batman look, but
Yeah, she's got the years, for
And-
sure.
And I feel like, this is probably a good time to talk about barrier reactivity, because that's something that I've seen, historically, that could be trained out of a pet if you, either get professional help or, you could do some good research online. There are a lot of tricks and tools that you can learn about to kind of get a dog a little bit more comfortable. Essentially what you find is sometimes there's a little bit more anxiety with a dog that is meeting another dog, let's say, but there's a barrier between them. So maybe it's a kennel door. In some cases you see leash reactivity, which is kind of considered like a barrier as well. The dog doesn't feel free to move around, so they get a little bit more anxious. But all of that I've seen, there are multiple trainers in our area that can work on that. And, if that is something that somebody would like to do.
And in Jersey's case, hers is more reactive when she's kind of boxed in.
Okay.
We see a lot of dogs that the shelter people do their best to give a bio on them, and then we get them at our adoption event. And for example, I'll give a perfect example that we had a dog adopted a couple weeks ago. He was supposed to not like men. Well, I don't know where it came from. Could have been totally from the kennel, but he was so, his name was Roscoe, and he was so into everybody. Matter of fact, when a couple would approach him, he'd more often go to the man than the woman. And
that's
I think I
interesting.
sent you a picture of Roscoe.
Oh.
He is the one that is laying down with his belly being rubbed with a huge smile on his
Oh,
face.
I think, let's see, we might have that actually. It's, Jeb, it's the, on the
Right.
right side of our play deck. Right, on the right side, right at the bottom. Tuesday. Yep. That's him. I think that's him. Is that him?
Yep, that's Roscoe.
We got him.
Look at the smile on his face.
And that looks like a man petting him,
It is,
by the way.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the dangerous man that he doesn't
Yeah.
supposedly like. And we saw that all day long. And he was another one that was great to be a couch potato.
Yeah. So that's some of the pictures, by the way, that you sent us of one of your adoption events, or actually probably multiple of your events, kind of all edited together. But we've got 4 folks up next. She's a cutie. And she's the chocolate lab. I love her. And I do have, oops. Sorry, folks. They're not adoptable. They're already spoken for. I apologize. That was a miscue, mispunch. But let's go ahead and get to Katie, I believe, is the next one. Yep. She's a senior. I love seniors, by
Yep.
the way.
Katie, we had her last week at the adoption event. She's laid back. She is a senior. They have a guest age around 8 at the shelter. She seemed to act younger than 8. The only thing they can tell by age when they come in as strays is by what their teeth look like. So that's why some dogs, they do their best again to guess their ages. Katie is typical chocolate lab. She's fun-loving. She's just a sweet girl. My wife had her part of the time last week, and she just loves her. If I didn't have enough dogs at home, I probably would find a home for Katie.
Yeah. I mean, loves a good lap. I love to hear that. Oh, like a nice security blanket
Yep,
for you.
Exactly.
Oh, and yeah, the seniors sometimes can get overlooked in the shelter, which is such a shame, because you find that sometimes the puppy behaviors, if you feel like you're not quite ready to navigate all that, the seniors kind of come free of that, I want to say, in a lot of cases. Sometimes they're housebroken because maybe they have lived in a house previously before they came to the shelter. What a face. I just love to see it.
Yep, I love that face.
All right, our next pup here, I believe we've got up next. Yep, that's the scarf baby. I call her Mandy Rose.
Mandy Rose, yeah.
She is a lab, and she is on the senior side as well.
She is, but there is definitely not a senior bone in her body right now.
Oh, she's still energetic.
She is very energetic. In the cages that we had them in over the weekend, she spent as much time standing up as she did down, and she didn't lay down till the end of the day. And sometimes the day gets long for them, so.
Yeah.
But she was up every time somebody came around. Mandy May is a type of dog that probably you wouldn't want her to be adopted if you had domestic goats or chickens or anything like that, because she has the instinct. But she's a great girl. She's been out a couple times on a 5-bark stay. That's where people can take them out, give them a few days out of the shelter, and then they can bring them back. And so she's been out a couple times. So she's been at the shelter probably overall about 2 months, I'm going to say.
Yeah. But she seemingly does well with other dogs.
Yes,
which is
yes,
good.
she's good with other dogs. That's correct.
Very, very cute. Yeah, likes to chase goats was the note that you sent me.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my, Mandy Rose.
That was her last 5-bark.
Okay. And I believe we have a kitty cat too for our
Yes.
next one. So our next is Snowball, who is also on the older side.
Yep.
But he's got a little blep for us, a little tongue action in that picture, which is so cute. It's Tongue Out Tuesday. Tell us about Snowball.
Well, Snowball is been at the shelter for a little while. Oh, like you said, senior cats and dogs are a little harder to get adopted. Everybody loves the kittens, and we are still in kitten season, but Snowball is still available and adopted. She might need a little bit of patience to adapt because cats have a tendency to be a little bit harder to adapt to a new environment when they're older. And I don't have a lot of information on Snowball, but she is right now the only senior. We only had 3 other kittens available at the shelter, but that's probably going to change. They do their spay neuters at the shelters on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I looked at the stray hold, and there's about 30 cats on stray hold right now. So they will be coming available soon, and we have those cats available at the PetSmart in Lincolnton. They're also available at a cat cafe in Lincolnton, I believe.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So those are the main highlights that you sent to us ahead of time. Obviously, you have many more animals. I did want to mention that I put together a web article with more information about hats, more information about Lincoln County Animal Services with links, and also pictures to all of our adoptables, plus the link to check out all of the adoptables that you have on your website right now. So that can kind of give folks a better idea of maybe the fuller look of what might be at the shelter.
Right.
I did want to mention, you know, as we kind of start to wrap things up, the fact that y'all do a lot of work there in Lincoln County, not just working to get animals adopted, but also just to kind of support the shelter and adopters in any way possible. And try to get animals into rescues too. We have some images from Danny, who is absolutely adorable, and it looks like she might have gone through some things.
Yes. I wanted to mention Danny because this highlighted the cooperation between several agencies in Lincoln County. I believe it was either the Lincolnton Police or the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office that found Danny. She'd been hit by a car. She was about 4 months old at the time. The officer picked Danny up and took her to Denver Emergency, where they evaluated her and determined that her back legs were kind of paralyzed at the time. The vet there felt that possibly she may have to be put down, but the officer called the shelter. The shelter director immediately called our president of HATS and said, "What do you think? Do you think we can help Danny?" And we said 100%. So they did a little bit of surgery there at the Denver Emergency. They took Danny back to the shelter, did some therapy with her. One of our volunteers had that wheelchair that she's outfitted with as one that he'd had for one of his dogs. He donated that to her. And the day that she first got the wheels behind her was the happiest day I think I've ever seen Danny.
Aww.
She had smile on her face. She was rolling up and down the aisle at the shelter, happy as can be. They continue to do water therapy. with her, and eventually I believe it was the Piedmont Rescue then took her, and they were able to give her more therapy. I don't think she was able to stand a little bit without the wheelchair, but she never, to my knowledge, ever got back her full strength in her. But eventually she was adopted from Piedmont, found her forever home, and she's been very happy.
That's great. It's so great to see. And I think it's the reason we wanted to share the story is just one of the many ways that folks can help out. You know, you kind of pointed out the fact that sometimes you already have a lot of pets in the house. You still want to make a difference, feel like you're making an impact. You could volunteer, you could foster, you could help out an organization like HATS in all of the different efforts that you have, just getting animals from shelters into rescues. You talked about filling Kongs. Danny's story is just one example of how volunteers can come together to make a difference for one animal that might have not had the chance otherwise, and who knows what could have happened to Danny, you know, if y'all didn't step in.
Danny was such a sweetheart.
Yeah. Anything that you want to leave us with before we wrap things up here about, you know, message to folks watching at home about the need, how they can help, just anything?
Well, there's many ways people can help. Obviously, adoptions is our number one goal. I have a number one goal, and that's 0. That 0 means no dogs, no cats in the shelter. And I actually saw it once for about 2 hours. But
wow, that's incredible though, even for that amount of time.
At least for dogs. I don't know about cats, but at least there was one time when we had an event like Clear the Shelter, and every dog was adopted. Unfortunately, one of the dogs did come back, but that was a great day. Volunteering, HATS is a total volunteer organization. 93% of our funds go right directly back to the animals. We support the shelter. Our county has been very supportive to us. They're providing us with a new shelter they're going to be building here in the very near future. The site work has been being completed, and I think that says a lot. We're a small county overall compared to some of the larger ones around, but the people in this county have a lot of heart and a lot of giving. And you know, help the shelter, help HATS. We do an adoption event at PetSmart in Lincolnton every Saturday from 10:30 till 3:30, and we're there every single Saturday. We run 2 shifts, a morning shift and the afternoon shift. And I have 4 other leaders that work diligently to keep this going. Some of them have been doing this for a long time, and I can't say enough for the volunteers that we have.
It really makes a difference when you have a community coming together to do the important work. Ken Phelps, we thank you so much for your time, and thank you for what you are doing for the animals. We appreciate it, and we're glad we could kind of profile some of that work for folks here.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time to let us talk about it.
Absolutely. We'll remind folks once again, the group is called HATS, Helping Animals to Survive. The shelter where you saw all those pets, that's Lincoln County Animal Services. We've got more information on our website, WCNC.com, inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. And just keep it here on WCNC Plus. Throughout the rest of the month, we'll be highlighting local animals, local rescues, local shelters, and how you can make a difference in this Clear the Shelters campaign. We're going to turn now to a live feed just into our newsroom right now. This is coming to us from Sumter County, South Carolina, where authorities are giving an update on an autopsy that was done on one of the 2 women who were apparently found last week in a rural part of the Midlands. Unfortunately, they were both deceased. Here's officials right now.
Family members in Charleston to verify who the gunshot homicide victim was. But SLED came down that night and at about midnight fingerprinted both of the individuals for us and gave us, which helped out immensely because it gave us contact with the next of kin, and it gives the sheriff's a point of contact and a place to start looking.
One more question. As far as I understand, the other autopsy is underway. Is there a time frame for when you will know the results of?
I should have a preliminary this afternoon from usually when the doctors complete the autopsies, and our autopsies were the last 2 of the day because they're potential homicides. Well, one is confirmed already. They'll call me sometime late this afternoon and give me a preliminary, and then the first thing I'll do is contact the sheriff and then contact the next of kin and let them know. But literally, it is being done as we speak, because I just got off the phone with investigators down in Charleston.
Sheriff, emotional reaction with this, investigators describing it as an uncommon discovery. What is the emotional reaction from you as a leader to see this happen in your community?
Well, first, arriving on the scene and seeing this type of incident in our community and the uproar in the community and the fear of those in that community, it does have an effect not only on our agency but the community, and that's why we are really taking this as not only serious, we take all of them serious, but we are doing everything possible. I'm reaching out all resources that we have available, including the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, and if it takes the federal agencies, I will, to bring justice who committed this act.
Do you have a message for those responsible or anybody potentially helping those individuals?
Yes, I do. I can say that we are receiving tips and information now, and I do feel confident in our investigators and with the assistance that we're receiving that we're going to bring those to justice soon.
If people are willing or ready to give tips, how can they contact you?
Okay, contact Crime Stoppers with Sumter County Crime Stoppers or State Crime Stoppers, and information will be provided to our agency.
Coroner, I just want to clarify for the cause of death for Ms. McAbee. Can you clarify it was a single gunshot wound?
Again, that's specific information that the sheriff wants to keep close to his vest. All I can tell you is that death certificate will reflect homicide, and the cause of death will be gunshot wound. I don't want to get into specifics as far as anything about that, because that information needs to be close to the chest, because the people responsible, we don't want them, and the sheriff don't want them knowing exactly what we know that might be helpful towards getting this to a closer resolution.
Is there a belief that you guys are already headed to knowing a suspect or somebody that you already have your eye on?
I can't release that information at this time. Like I said, we have received several tips that our investigation are following up on at this time.
How many tips you got?
Multiple tips. I don't have these exact number at this time.
All right, well, are there any other questions?
I understand you gave a message for the community, but for the families impacted, anything that you wanted to lastly say to them?
We've reached out to the families, of course, our victim advocates, and I personally will be reached out myself. I think the coroners will reach out to them. Anytime, being the sheriff of Sumter County and a crime of this magnitude happening, or occurred, and the bodies being found in our county and our community, certainly want to let them know that we will bring those to justice that committed this heinous crime. I mean, this is something that you don't normally experience, not only over days but years, to find two bodies like that in the wooded area in your county.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you. This concludes the press conference today. If you have any other questions you'd like me to address to the sheriff or investigators, you have my email address and contact information. Thank you for making the trip over and for helping inform.
All right, so there you have it, folks. That was an update out of Sumter County, South Carolina. There were 2 women who were found dead in a rural part of the Midlands last week. They just did an autopsy on one of the women, apparently Christine McAbee of Walterboro, they determined died of a gunshot wound. There's a second autopsy for the other woman, Kristen Grissom of North Charleston, which is still being conducted as of this afternoon. And it sounded like they were asking folks who might have any information about this to contact either them, so that's the Sumter County Sheriff's Office, or Crime Stoppers. The number is 1-888-CRIME-SC. That's again 1-888-CRIME-SC. As we learn more, we'll pass it along. We've got a really gnarly image to show you right now. So just a heads up, folks, we're turning to some breaking feeds that we're seeing out of Florida. This is Auburndale. For folks who are familiar with the Tampa area at all, Auburndale is kind of in the outskirts of the Tampa viewing area, if you will, Polk County. So this is around where Lakeland is. It's probably going to be about halfway between Tampa and Orlando. Looked like we had quite a bit of damage to the structure. We're still trying to get some more information on this case. We can't speak to injuries, the full extent of the damage, the cause of it. This is all very, very early on, and you just saw some aerials of not only the home itself, but kind of the neighborhood too. This appears to be pretty clustered area as far as there are other homes around here fairly nearby to where that explosion took place. So curious to see if there was any sort of impact to other homes in the area. Hopefully not. You can see it's a pretty large emergency response. It looks like you have not only fire, but police, potentially even medic lined all up and down multiple streets leading down to what appears to be kind of like a roundabout towards the right-hand side of your screen. Up towards the top right is where you see the home in question. There's a gray roof, and I know we're zoomed in. Just keep in mind, folks, we don't have any control over the chopper shot itself, only the fact that we can take it in. So if we could, hopefully they'll zoom in eventually, but there you see it. Some of the hoses being wrapped up, so presumably any of the concerns from a potential fire from this is gone. I did not see any flames when we were on a tighter shot of the home earlier. It does look like it did sustain a lot of damage, at least towards the garage or carport area and maybe some of the structure itself. Once again, hopefully the chopper will kind of pivot over a bit more so we can see the house. We've got a crew that we're understanding is trying to gather some more information with our affiliate there in the Tampa market. So if we are able to get you some more updates, we will. But yeah, big response, fire and EMS and police, all centered on this potential home explosion in the Auburndale, Florida area, Polk County, kind of outside the Lakeland area. And it looks like that chopper's flying away. Bear with us, folks. We're going to pivot away to another feed because we are getting an update out of the Rio Blanco area of Denver. This is regarding that wildfire that has been underway for quite a bit. Actually, there are 3 fires from what we understand. We got officials giving us an update. 130,000 acres of land apparently have burned thus far in recent weeks. Let's listen in right now.
Things burned, and the ranchers worked really well together, helping each other get some fires out. There was some pretty tense times when the cattle trucks were actually alongside the fire, trying to get some of these cows moved, and they did a really good job. I want to thank everybody in the community for being patient and working. We've got over 700 firefighters here now, so we have to be patient and let them do their job. And finally, it's we're working to bring a fiscal agent for donations together so that we can have something organized that will take care of the people in the Elk and the Lee fires, no matter what county they're in. We want this to be a county, a multi-county setup, because all 3 counties have helped in this situation, and we want donations to go to the fiscal agent that we're working on this afternoon, and we'll make that announcement soon, as soon as we get the contract signed, so that anybody that is affected by the Lee and the Elk fire will be able to access these funds no matter where they live. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate you being here. And to close out our presentation here today, before we take some questions, we have Ben Sanders, who is an incident commander with the Rocky Mountain Area Complex Incident Management Team 3.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Bethany. My name is Ben Sanders. I'm a incident commander trainee with Rocky Mountain and Complex Incident Management Team 3. You've heard from a lot of our partners today. You've heard from our operations section chiefs today on when this fire started. One of the purposes of an IMT or a CIMT is coming in and assisting with the local agencies when the current fire or the fires have exceeded the limits of the local unit, and it will help establish them to make ready for IA. So traditionally, we come in with 75 people on the roster, and we were able to expand and contrast as needed. As everybody knows, this fire is a large fire. So we expanded our sections, whether it be finance, operations, logistics, to keep up with this. Currently, we have 1,300 people on this incident, So some of the tactics and strategies that you've heard from our operations, it takes a team. We've developed these strategies with our local agency administrators and determined the values at risk, and we based our strategies on the values at risk. Some of the values at risk that were identified to us from the get-go were Highway 13, the community of Meeker and associated residents, infrastructure, power lines, and oil and gas. Those are the top three, and as the strategy has forced us to look at a broader picture and to rifle, and we incorporated the Garfield County Sheriff's Office and the City of Rifle as well. And they helped us define some of our risks, some of our values associated with this strategy as well, which is the Highway 13, I-70 corridor, and rifle. And we were able to base all of our tactics on those current values, such as indirect strategy and using up in the peons. Some of the major challenges that we faced on this one, you've heard from ops, is red flag conditions for 6 days, dry fuels conditions, extreme fire behavior, and that forced our hand to look at a broader picture, and we're looking out where we have the best probability of success of our firefighters, which reduces the risk to those folks as well. I'd like to thank all of our partners, the DFPC, the White River National Forest, White River Field Office, Garfield County Sheriff, as well as the Rio Blanco Sheriff, especially, and as well, City of Meeker and the Meeker Fire Department has helped us greatly in suppression actions in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks to all of our speakers today. And we're going to take an opportunity to take some questions. I do also want to note that Curtis Keach, who's the district ranger for Blanco Ranger District in the White River National Forest, is also here. So if you have any forest-specific or wilderness-related questions, he's here to take those for you as well. And just a quick reminder for everybody as we do go through some questions, this is still an active and evolving incident, as you know and can see. So just a reminder that there may still be a handful of questions out there that we know you really would like answers to. We don't necessarily always have answers to all of them right away either. As was mentioned earlier, by the BLM about cattle, et cetera, there's things that we're still assessing, right? So bear with us if there's a couple things that we can't exactly get for you right now. We'll always do our best to wrap up later and follow up if we can. Okay, so how we're going to do this, okay, I got a first one. How we're going to do this is we'll take the questions out there. I may repeat it just so folks are sure to hear it up here, and then we'll kind of quickly figure out amongst ourselves who that question is for. Unless you already know it's for someone specific, that's fine as well. So go ahead.
Just, do you know how many people have evacuated from Garfield County?
How many people have evacuated from Garfield County?
7. 7 people.
7 people.
Are they separate residences, or is that one family?
It's five residents.
Okay, great.
5 different residents in Garfield County? Okay, great. And if it's a longer explanation, they'll come on up too and share with you, okay? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just again, you touched on it briefly about rifle and where the fire kind of sits, if you will, at least with the leaf fire. Can you go into any more detail? I know the tone of voice sounds like it's going to be okay, but can you go into any more detail for folks who live down there? I know there are a lot of folks down at that community meeting last night. Any more insight as to what's next?
Anyone want to take a what's next for rifle? Great.
So Tyler Nate, the operations again. So to address the rifle concern there, kind of what we're looking at with where we're sitting with the current fire, everything other than this spot that we have over the Piance Creek Road, the Erie County Road 5, is pretty well secured along that road. So this is our concern right now. And the strategy that we're taking with that current piece is we're utilizing this as an opportunity. We have a good window with weather and moderated conditions today. So we have hot shot crews, heavy equipment, helicopters, fixed wing aircraft using retardant, and we're really trying to be super aggressive with that today, with the hopes that we can get that kind of pinned in there by going as direct as possible. Now, at the same time going on, we also have 2 other additional layers of work that's being completed. So out just a little bit farther, there's a road system that connects into the rim here. And the rim is a prominent rock feature. If you guys have driven up and down the Highway 13 corridor, up high on the left, if you're coming north, that rock feature there is an excellent holding feature. And we always look for those natural features out there that we can utilize to our advantage. That eliminates an area that we have to work, and we let nature kind of help us with containing that fire. So there's a smaller box there that comes over in and ties into the rim that they're working on completing today and into tomorrow. And then we also have folks out here farther. There's a east-west road along here, pretty prominent, that they're working on prepping out, and that means clearing brush away from and widening that road system to be able to utilize that as a containment line. And again, tying that into that prominent rock feature with the intent that if our primary strategy of getting in direct and taking care of it with what we're trying to do today and taking advantage of that opportunity, we have a second fallback that's already in place, and then we even have a third one that's really kind of been discussed through the agency administrators as looking sort of big picture and then taking our opportunities to narrow that and close that gap as the conditions, the weather, and the fire allows us to do. So I hope that helps kind of answer the question there. We have a lot of planning and a lot of people in place way out ahead of this thing that really minimizes that risk and that threat to the community of Rifle itself.
Thank you, Tyler. Yes, go ahead, Allie.
So this is now the 5th largest wildfire in the state's history. Do we know off the top of our heads how many days it took to put out the 4 above it? And if we have any grasp of how many more days it's going to take to get this one?
Did you say how many days it took to put out the other 4 fires that are?
4 bigger ones, if you will.
I don't know if anybody's going to have that information right off the top of their head. It would something that the state may have somewhere in their history, but it would be a little bit hard for any of us, I think, to pull that off the top of our head right now. I mean, you know, the Cameron Peak fire obviously burned for a very long time, over 100 days. Several of those other fires burned less time than that.
Are you prepping like this could be 100 days more here?
I can answer that question. Sorry, Ben Sanders, IC trainee. No, we're not prepping for 100 days. We can't at this moment determine how long it's going to take. It's whenever we accomplish the strategy and reduce the risk to values. That's our number 1 priority is values, reduce the risk, then we will worry about how long it will take after that.
Yes, go ahead.
We talked about the resources we're trying to protect, homes obviously, but I think the oil and gas aspect of this is particularly interesting. We have an entire business basically set along 13, right? How big did that play into and how problematic would that be should something cross over that area? Is this one of those situations, like, I just don't understand, if you throw a propane tank into a fire, it doesn't explode because it has protective casing. Is that the same for these operation locations, these wells? Or are we worried that if fire does reach those values, it could create a bigger problem?
So we've got some questions about the oil and gas and the impacts on those actual physical structures. Anyone able to address that? Thanks, Bill.
Bill Mills, Field Manager for the White River Field Office. Most of our oil and gas infrastructure in the Piceance Basin is right through here. We don't have a great deal of resources to the east of Colorado Highway 13. Part of our permitting activity for oil and gas are design features for oil and gas pads, and what we've seen time and time again throughout this fire is that those design features are proving successful. When oil and gas operators develop those pads, there's a requirement for them to clear vegetation around those pads. And again, we'll have to do an assessment when the fire is complete, but what we've seen so far is that those design features have been very, very successful.
Thanks, Bill. Mark, I saw your hand up.
Yeah. 116,000 acres and I believe 5 homes destroyed seems
like a remarkable job on the firefighters' behalfs to save a heck of a lot of people's livelihoods and homes and things like that. It reminds me a little bit of the Pine Gulch fire that was, what, the second or third largest, but didn't really have any losses when it comes to homes and stuff like that. I don't know if there's either one of the firefighters or someone else who might be able to speak a little bit about protecting homes in particular, how you go about knowing where those are and putting firefighters at those places to help protect those homes so that the number is so low.
Sounds like a great question for Operations Section Chief Tyler Nathy.
I can just stay up here and I get that. Yeah, so the question is, how do we protect the homes when we have this extreme fire behavior and it's moving so quickly into those areas? And really, it just comes down to prioritizing what we're looking at. So in the early couple days of even the team getting here and still waiting for some other resources to get in, we were pretty limited. So in some aspects, that makes it easier for us to identify we only have so many resources. So we're going to concentrate those resources on protecting homes, on protecting life, on protecting property. So we have a lot of different strategies that we can utilize. If we have time involved, it involves clearing brush and removing some of the fuels around the houses. We can set up sprinkler systems, lay hose lines in there. This one, we didn't really kind of have that luxury of time, so a lot of the tactics that were used for structure protection on this particular fire were coming in as the fire was approaching it and either getting some heavy equipment to do a quick loop around the back of the home and utilizing that as a control feature, and then utilizing drip torches and doing some strategic defensive firing around the back, basically to just bump the main fire around that value, and then we keep an engine on it to make sure it doesn't come across that control feature and sneak up on the house, and we just continue that down the line until it hits an area of no values, and then we refocus that resource effort towards the next set of values, and that's been really successful, like you mentioned.
Folks, we're turning to another feed here on Live Impact News. We've got chopper shots as chopper in the Los Angeles area has been circling around a neighborhood. We're told this is the Calabasas area, where Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department believe they found a car of a man who was wanted for murder in Washington State. Bear with us. It looks like the chopper has been circling around. I don't know if they're coming about, but anyways, we were seeing at one point with zoomed in shot here from the chopper, they were kind of zoomed in at a home where there were multiple patrol cars that were parked outside. We don't know if they actually found this man in question, but at the very least, the sheriff's department there says they found his car. His name's 51-year-old Alexander Lee Rogers. This is a picture that authorities have provided. Once again, he's wanted for murder in Washington State. Apparently, Longview Police Department released some photos of Alexander Lee Rogers from an interaction they had with him a couple days ago in the morning. And then less than 3 hours after that, they were called to a home about a stabbing, they said. There was a 64-year-old woman who died and a 73-year-old man who had to go to the hospital with critical injuries. Apparently, this man is wanted in connection with that. And they also say that Rogers was released from prison after serving more than 2 decades for an assault with a machete. Still unclear why he might be in LA or why he left his car at the very least. This is, once again, appears to be a neighborhood of sorts that we're looking at. So more information as we're able to get it to you. Once again, though, we have Los Angeles area authorities saying that they found at the very least a car of a man wanted for murder out of Washington State. An incident from several days ago. Actually, looks like at this point it's probably about a week ago. And that person is a 51-year-old Alexander Lee Rogers. Looks like they might be kind of looking around to see if there are other parts of the scene. They kind of keep coming back to the same area, but you can see there's the patrol cars, at least some of them. And we're just waiting for some more information. We have, in the meantime, for you folks, some local headlines to get to. Of course, sports. On the sports front, we've got Panthers that have been top of mind as folks have been looking ahead to the upcoming season. We're in the midst of training camp. We've already had one preseason game. Our Danielle Stein is joining us right now from Bank of America Stadium. Oh, the sun is out where you are.
I know.
A revelation that it doesn't have to pour on your
Absolutely.
training camp.
Well, today actually was a little bit of a tale of two stories because it actually was pretty bad weather to start the day, so much so that the day of training camp was delayed for an hour and 15 minutes, which is something that we hadn't seen actually at all throughout training camp so far. We've seen a lot of heavy rains, but today was enough for them to say, hey, let's push it back a little bit, let things dry off, and here we are. The sun is shining. It is now beautiful out for the last home day of training camp for this preseason, actually.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. I suppose it's probably because they are going on the road Saturday. They're going to play, I believe it's Texans, right? And that will be there in Texas.
Yep, so technically this is the last home day of training camp. They do technically continue with training camp as they're going to be traveling tomorrow, and then Thursday they do have a joint practice with the Houston Texans before they have that second preseason game on Saturday. So that's also part of what is considered to be training camp. But then once the team returns, it's then just going into preseason work. It's no longer considered training camp, but our schedules are going to be looking a lot of the same as the team is still prepping and getting ready for the season to officially open up.
Yeah, I mean, y'all with the sports department, you've had some kind of, I guess, amended schedules lately because y'all been getting up maybe a little bit earlier than you're used to, you know, for your normal, you know, shift, if you will. So I guess, what are you looking at as far as, you know, storylines for us today? Anything interesting pop out to you during the activities today, and that you'll be reporting on for us in our evening newscasts?
Yeah, so today we had an extended look, of course, at training camp. No pads for the players today. Bryce Young did look sharp. We saw him looking pretty good out there during some of the drills. We saw of note still J.C. Horn not participating in those team drills after he got into that car accident last week. He still does have his stitches on his thumb, on his left hand. We did see him actually working on a little bit of one-handed catching, working on some maybe interceptions if he were to be able to pull that kind of thing off. So he's still trying to stay as active as possible. Another storyline of training camp all this summer we've been seeing is coming from one of those undrafted rookie free agents in Corey Thornton. He has been the story, it seems, for this Panthers camp, and every single person who's talking about him is saying absolutely glowing things about him. J.C. Horn, even himself, saying he can't believe that this is a guy who went undrafted in the NFL draft earlier this year. Corey Thornton had that massive WWE-style smackdown slam in that preseason game against the Browns, but he's been showing up in practice every single day. He's continuing to put on a lot of really good pressure on the defensive front as well, too. So that's been really fun to watch as this team is going to be getting closer and closer to making some tough decisions in terms of who is in and who is out on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember we had maybe it was a one-on-one with him last week. He seems to have a pretty good attitude, if I remember correctly, and just, I know obviously wants to go out there and prove himself. And you used the word glowing. Literally, as you brought his name up, I was just sitting here thinking the word glowing as far as just all of the reviews I've heard from him, from folks who've been watching him.
Yeah, people have been really excited. Of course, it takes a big play like that one against the Browns where a guy was hurdling him midair and he took him down for people to start to really buy in. But it's not that. It's the little things the team has been saying. He's been showing up day in and day out and really working. And he's been relying on those veterans, too, around him, and J.C. Horn and Mike Jack as well. JC saying that Corey's someone who always is asking him questions. How do you prepare for a game day? How are you getting your body right? So this is someone who's really trying to work to earn their place. And of course, this wouldn't be the first time that an undrafted free agent gets signed and maybe makes an impact. Damari Richardson is another example of a player who has done that in the past too with this team, who is still here today. So that is something he can draw on as an example, especially on the defensive side of the ball too.
All right. Anything that you're looking for as you look ahead to the matchup that's to come on Saturday?
I think it's just another really good chance for the Panthers to get out there. Dave Canales already said that he wants to see those starters, including Bryce Young, out there for a little bit more extended time. We saw 2 series in that game against the Browns. The first one was that 3-and-out, so not really a good complete look at what the offense can bring. He wants to see a little bit more, and I think the whole team is excited and eager to really get out there and also try to put some plays together themselves too. So we saw a little bit of that combination between Bryce Young and T-Mac, 2 really nice receptions there, one of them going for 30 yards. I know everyone wants to see how that continues to progress on the field. But the Texans, they are strong. We will see what kind of team they will be putting out there as well. But it's going to be, again, another test for that defense to step up in an early preseason test for them to see how they can hold up against a strong competitor.
Fantastic. All right. We know that you've got some coverage coming up here on our evening newscast. Anything that you want to lay out for us, 4, 5, 6, that folks can expect as they keep it here on WCNC Plus?
Absolutely. Another story from today, being the last joint practice here in Charlotte. We'll call it that because the Panthers hosted PALS, which is the Police Activity League, the under 11 Pop Warner football team. So some youth football players were out here today playing a little bit of a game with the Panthers, all watching from the side, and it was a really cool moment. We're going to hear from their coach about what it means to have the Panthers supporting their initiative of bringing football on a big stage, and how some of these players really took their time to get to know these kids and serve as a really positive influence for them. So I'm going to have more about that tonight around 5:50.
That is fantastic. I'm excited to see that. All right, Danielle Stein, thank you so much for your report once again at Bank of America Stadium as we are wrapping up the home element of training camp. Of course, more coverage to come. Folks, thanks so much for keeping it here on Live Impact. Thank you, Danielle. We're turning now to weather impacts because, of course, we saw in Danielle's shot the sun came out. So some folks are seeing it. Will everyone see it? Well, we've got Becca Birdsall explaining. Let's take a listen.
Good Tuesday afternoon. Not looking nearly as wet for the second half of the day with only isolated downpours in the forecast. Not nearly as wet as the first half of the day was. That being said, though, we'll still carry about a 40% chance for a couple of showers throughout the day. Of course, this is rainfall on top of rainfall that we got from yesterday. Soils are very saturated, which is why all of us encompass under a low threat for excessive rainfall. This is mainly for nuisance or localized isolated flooding, just something that will carry likely not only for today but over the next several days as well. Highs today gonna be cool like they have been this past week. Lower 80s is what we'll do across the Charlotte Metro and middle 70s across the high country with clouds and periods of rain on and off throughout the day. Headed off to the Knights game this evening. Actually should be pretty nice, mostly dry, again holding on to a chance for an isolated shower, falling at least to the upper 70s by the time we get to around 9-10 o'clock. It's been a wet month so far. We're only at August 12th. In fact, from August 1st all the way through about the 11th, we picked up almost 6 inches of rainfall, which is more rain than we get for the average for the entire month. A lot of that fell from yesterday. Some locations picking up over 2 inches, including Shelby, Gastonia, over an inch towards Hickory, Rock Hill, Chester, portions of Union and Chesterfield County as well, with an additional anywhere from a quarter to up to around an inch of rainfall as we head from now all the way through about Thursday. So the worst is already over. Here's that setup. We've got that high pressure system off to the east, and that's driving in winds from the south and just going to provide ample moisture for rain chances over the following days. Going to be more widespread for today, scattered for Wednesday and Thursday, and a bit more isolated as we end out the work week. Timing this out for you, that rain continues to push off to the east, and as we head towards the evening hours, in exception to the high country, most locations will stay dry. Again, isolated downpour here and there, but don't cancel any plans. Wednesday morning starts off wet. We've got widespread clouds and a couple of light showers, some of which actually could be briefly heavy at times, and scattered showers and thunderstorms can be expected for the afternoon and evening, potentially even with a few peaks of sunshine, but we will carry that pattern into Thursday as well. This is that rinse and repeat cycle, which is why all of us at least encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall all the way through Thursday. Eventually, though, as rain chances taper off, it's going to start to feel a little bit more like summer as temperatures finally rise closer to average, upper 80s to lower 90s Thursday, all the way into the weekend. So we're looking forward mainly to a mostly rain-free Saturday, Sunday, and going to be feeling more like a seasonable August day. Checking in on the tropics, we do have that newest advisory for Tropical Storm Erin. Now, the earliest advisory this morning came out around 5 o'clock, and not much has changed. In fact, winds sustained with Erin are still 45 miles per hour, and it's still moving west at 23. So Erin really hasn't strengthened much in the past 24 hours, and part of the reason why is the Saharan dust layer is interacting with Erin, and the Saharan dust layer often inhibits or prevents tropical systems from being able to strengthen just because it creates a dry layer in the atmosphere, which suppresses clouds and moisture. So as this continues to interact with dust, it is going to slowly progress and slowly strengthen as it continues to push westward. So National Hurricane Center has updated this forecast, now likely to become our first hurricane of the season by the time we go into Friday, potentially a major hurricane heading into this weekend. Does look like it's going to stay away from the East Coast, but keep up to date with that latest forecast on WCNC Plus.
And with that, folks, we're turning back to these breaking images out of Los Angeles, where our crews there have been focused on an area where the car of a suspect out of Washington State has been found. As we shared before, this man's name is 51-year-old Alexander Lee Rogers. He is wanted for the death of a 64-year-old woman and the wounding of a 73-year-old man. And apparently, about a week ago is when that incident happened. Authorities in Los Angeles County say that they found his car in an area of Calabasas Road just off of Mulholland Drive. So interestingly, and new here as we're getting some more information from our crews out there in California, it does sound like detectives with Longview Police there in Washington State are actually en route as we speak to Los Angeles. We're told they are going to work with the sheriff's office to check Rogers' car for evidence. Also of note, Longview Police say that there's video showing that he was spotted in the greater LA area. Because that was a question that folks had was it just his car? Did he ditch it? Did he leave? Apparently there is some sort of surveillance video indicating that he was also himself still hanging around the greater LA area. Like we mentioned, Washington State authorities are now going to be joining up with detectives here, and we say here where the aerials are here in Los Angeles, and they will be working together to try to piece together, is there any evidence of note in this car that might indicate where this man has gone next? You're actually seeing an image of him. This is from Longview Police Department. They also had some images that they said they found